Just leave. Mr. Mayor. No. She's gonna handle that.
Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. Sorry, fellowship and visitation is over. You're relegated to now listening to us go through each one of these, but a number of y'all have a vested interest. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Some of y'all have to be here, some come just for the fun. So, review of the agenda. Before we go ahead and begin, any questions, concerns, anything about the agenda? I think we had an item removed, but it's back on, so
we got an email to remove two of the items. Item C2
I
is one
think
of
it's
them.
actually, it's only going to be the ABL that needs to be removed.
So you changed your mind.
Which item?
It is under Community Development ABL-05-24.
Number one, Star Food.
C2.
Okay, yes. Okay. Oh,
And we had, not the other one,
it's not number one?
No,
it's number 2 on this agenda.
I'm looking at a work session. Okay.
What about the other agenda, Teresa? You emailed us about another one too, the shoreline.
yeah, so, that one, I believe Jeff will have to, it was going to come off and now it is not going to come off.
Right. Okay. All right. So I have two agendas. I'm going to revert to the other one that I had to add something on. I print my agendas off most of the time directly from what the citizens will see. I print off what they will see, and then I highlight. And I know we have changes back and forth. So I had Star Foods as item number 1 under C. Or you're saying that the one that was removed, that was item 2?
Yes, so there were 5 items under community development on your agenda.
Under
Okay.
Community development?
Community development, there were 5 items,
That's-
and I may have changed the order.
Okay.
To put the public hearing at the top.
Okay, okay, so y'all have to bear with me if I get a little lost here, because I've got 2 agendas. One has 3 items, and I added on the 4th. Now I have one with 5 items, but Star Foods is number 1. So let me,
Teresa, we've taken off
You know-
item 2 or not on C2, ABL 05-24?
At tonight's meeting, y'all will need to remove it.
Okay, how about the other one you sent the email
The
about?
other one needs to stay.
Shoreline?
So the email that I sent you out today, the shoreline needs to stay.
Okay.
okay. All right, I think I'm good. I don't have any notes on this one, but that's okay. I've got a correct one. All right, unless there's any other concerns, we'll go right into number 1, amendment to ordinance section 2-30 terms of members for boards, commissions, and authorities. Mr. Drummond?
All right. I'll start, but I'm going to turn it over to Ashley, who actually drafted this and has done all the legal work for the Development Authority. Last year, as you recall, we kind of tried to simplify things to make all of our committees and boards, their terms start and end at the same time, and nothing's as simple as it should be. So since that time, there's been a change in state law that requires this ordinance change, and I'll let Ashley explain that.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
As Mr. Drummond mentioned, the Development Authority Act has been amended. Before the amendment, the directors/members of the board could hold over indefinitely until they were reappointed or their successors were appointed. Now with the amendment, that holdover limit is 6 months. So with the new ordinance would essentially violate that amendment to the Development Authority Act. So what we have proposed is just to amend the ordinance to exclude the Villa Rica Development Authority.
Okay. Case counsel has any questions, but at least to me it appears simple enough. We have to do this. It's comes down from the state, and it will apply only to the Villa Rica Development Authority.
Correct.
Any questions from council? That was hard. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, appointment of Villa Rica Development Authority.
I think that, are you going to put this on consent agenda, or do you want it to, can this go on consent since an amendment? Okay.
The appointments, or
No,
the other one?
amendment.
We can. Okay, so is there anyone opposed to putting the terms for the board's amendment to ordinance section 2-30 on the consent agenda? Okay, so that'll be consent item number 1. Thank you. All right, appointment of the Villa Rica Development Authority. Is that mine? All right, so in some ways, we're really ramping up, I would say, on economic development. We don't have our own, on the city level here, we don't have our own economic development department. So we're relying a lot on the professionalism that we get from Carol Tomorrow. I'm also working with the Douglas County side because they do have an economic development department. And Carol Tomorrow works closely and is involved with our development authority. So we had a vacant seat, and we've had another member with some health issues and all, so we end up with 2 vacancies. In talking to the chairman, it has come as a recommendation that we add these 2 people, not only to fill the vacancies, but to have people we feel like fit what we need to really go to town on, and I mean this, our focus is more commercial development now, not so much about residential. Not that that won't occur, but with the Development Authority, it's industrial, but there's also, you think of the Villa Rica Development Authority as all our industrial things, but they are now, I would say them and Carol Tomorrow, also trying to at least assist us or work with us with DDA on other commercial things when you even talk about restaurants and items like that. So it's very important who we have in there, and coming in as a recommendation, and I've got both applications attached here for y'all. Hopefully, has all the council had time to look through these? Okay, so Mr. Folsom and Mr. Wilson? Okay. Questions, concerns? Is there any opposition to putting this on, anyone opposed to putting this on the consent agenda? Okay, that'll be consent item number 2. All right, amend the WIC lease, that is with the women and children. What's the whole title on that with the health? Women, infant, and children. Okay. It's a federal program.
That's correct. And this is simply an update. The council approved a lease earlier this year, I believe, that included a Powell Park address. That has not worked out, so this lease updates the address to 25 East Church Street. It's my understanding everybody's in agreement with that location. City's been working hard to make that work. It actually is a better location for everybody involved. But this simply updates the lease with that new address in mind.
Okay, so in a nutshell, it would have been back behind the cemetery, Powell Park, where we go to vote. It's kind of secluded back there, and it will be centrally located directly behind here, where we're also going to have additional parking too, which will be helpful for downtown restaurants and special events. Any questions from the council? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 3? All right, that'll be consent item number 3. Next, number 4, intergovernmental agreement with Carroll County for ad valorem tax collection.
All right. Currently, we have an agreement with the tax commissioner. Carroll County collects our ad valorem taxes, sends out the bills, collects the taxes. We pay a fee for that out of the collected taxes. That's set to expire, so this simply continues that agreement for a period up through December 31st, 2028.
Is this annual? Because the only thing I noticed, there's a date change, but it's the same agreement. We're sticking with the same amount
Same
of
agreement.
payment?
It was about to expire, so we needed to extend it.
Same amount, everything else?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from council? Right, because we kind of need Carroll County, in this case, to collect our taxes for us, don't we? We don't have the staff for that. All right, anyone opposed to making this consent item number 4? Right. Number 5, discussion of the need for the chair of mayoral committees to give updates on those meetings to full council. So each year, the council appoints several mayor committees, various ones, recreation, transportation, and that type of thing. And those members, which will have a chair each and 2 other members, so there'll be what's going on, if it's recreation, and then can kind of inform us on stuff they know more than the rest of us that aren't on that committee. Some of those things would be budget items that will eventually come to all of us. When the splash pad came about, that would be an item where they would maybe know more about that, what recreation was planned. I'm just using recreation as an example because that one popped in my head. But what I just need is for the chairman to kind of inform us on what's happening. Sorry, I'm trying to get to the item. What's happening. Councilman Warmoth.
All right, so Parks and Recreation Committee report. Tracy Ivy and I have been working and discussing exactly what information to provide for you all for the report. So spring sports registration had 776 kids that were registered. The summer camps, educational, acting, sports, traditional, kids construction, gymnastics, dance, ball play, friends, had 592 slots filled with 31 different opportunities for kids to register for a full day or half day camp experience. The evaluation of summer program summer. Fall sports registration had 859 kids registered. The teams, breaking those down, 39 teams in soccer, 7 for football, 7 for the cheer squads, 18 for baseball and softball, and 3 for volleyball. Football and cheerleading homecoming will be held on September 27th. Player evaluations, team drafts, uniform orders, practices have already begun. Program staff is currently planning a fall movie in the park, and that date is to be determined. The 4th annual Power Wheels Challenge is September 14th. I've seen pictures of this. I have not had the opportunity to attend, but it's so cute. Mother-son camo camp is on September 28th, and breakfast and lunch with Santa programs will be announced. Classes, they're adding 3 more at the beginning of September. The splash pad had 2,416 attendees this summer. There were 54 splash pad rentals. The pad will be closed on September 1st unless we continue to have warmer weather and can staff it. Most of the attendants were college students. Total faculty currently has 310 members. This calendar through July, the center has served 4,911 congregate meals where the seniors come to the center to eat. And there have been 3,700 continuously planning new activities and fun things for the seniors. And the senior center is currently fully staffed with a coordinator starting on August 20. Having
Senior services, really, I've heard a lot of good things. Because my children are grown and I don't have anyone in a sports program right now, I'm not getting as much feedback, but I've gotten a lot of feedback from the seniors on the quality of life, things that go on with the meals and gathering together. And some of the events, like the movie in the park, I mean, they really are fun. They're nice amenities to attend. And you just have to come prepared no matter what the weather is. Like, I think we had really cold weather one fall, but anyway.
yeah,
So
the senior center, that's pretty amazing.
thank you, Councilman. Housing, Chairman Marchman.
Couldn't get a complete report, but what I did get was that we know that some of the tenants are being moved to different parts because of the fact that they are going to be in the process of refurbishing, for lack of a better word, some of the apartments. There were some words about tearing down some apartments over on Clegg Street, but that's not what they said. That's not what is true. So we want to clear that up, that they are going to be refixing some of those, changing some things and fixing those, healing those, so that some of the tenants can move back in if they so desire. But there is no reports to the fact that they're going to tear down some more apartments at this time. She was told that it'd probably be 10 or 15 years if they did that, but right now they're going to try to fix up the ones that they do have. I haven't gotten it. That was all I got.
Okay. So this is involving the Housing Authority. And so at this point, they're not tearing down any more of the old apartments.
That's what I got from the manager.
Yeah, other than what they already did
Right.
across from the hospital. Y'all have seen what they did with the old ones there, cleared it, built, the beautiful Walton communities there, and that was for senior living. And next door to that, which you now see is all cleared, is where the additional Phase 2, right? Phase 2
Right.
will go in there.
But they are not planning on tearing down anymore right now.
Okay, so if there's a rumor out there, we just got that one cleared up, that they're not tearing down, but I'm glad to hear that they're going to do some refurbishing. I don't know if anybody else knew that, but I didn't know that, and those things are old.
Yeah, well, that's
So-
what they told me.
I'm glad to
So
hear
I
they're
want
going to do some of that. Okay, all right, this one will be fun because it's transportation, and we hear a lot about this from constituents, I think, so Chairman McCoy?
Okay, I talked to Hal, our Public Works Director, last night, and I will apologize. It was very, very late, and I had just finished work at like 9 o'clock, so my brain was fried. So I might have to have him give me a little bit of fill in the blank, and then Matthew has something he wants to talk about, so I'll defer to him. We are scheduling our next meeting for later this month, so we'll be able to kind of get a little more information, and then but we did have a project that finished, and Hal, I drew a blank. Where was it that finished under budget?
Is, instead of speaking from there, if you want to come up to the mic, you don't have to, give a whole thing, but if there's something
Yeah,
you need to
I
answer,
just
just so they can
wanted-
hear it on the video too.
It was a project, we did one project in-house, and it finished under budget. We talked about it last night.
The Connors Road project, but that actually we didn't move forward with that. That actually had halted.
Okay,
But we were able to, for what we were doing at the time, we were able
Thank you.
to save quite a bit of money on that specific startup of that project.
yes, and the Connors Road sidewalks came in this summer, And I have to thank you because I was meeting with the Mirror Lake HOA and you responded to me very quickly because they did not want to have to spend extra money on their landscaping. And because of your quick response, they were able to tell the landscaper to go over to Stockmar versus starting on Connors and having it ripped up. But we discussed the sidewalks on Connors Road, and I know the sign project over in Mirror Lake with the new signs that started on Stockmar. So I have seen a lot of stuff in for traffic and transportation. We have seen a lot of stuff on the Mirror Lake side, and we're all very thankful for that. But like I said, we're all going to meet as a group later this month and have a little bit more detail about that. And Matthew, I'm going to defer to you now.
Okay.
Make sure you cover that turn lane on
Yes, so,
Punkintown Mirror Lake Boulevard.
right, so I had a few conversations
Or lack of
with,
turn lane.
with interim city manager Reese and city engineer Bobby Elliott, and we're looking at 3 projects, the first being that turn lane installation on Mirror Lake for the new Publix development there. Another being we are looking at some intersection improvements on South Carroll Road behind the Walmart and the Hickory Falls apartments have been kind of a point of consternation for a lot of folks for many years. And then additionally, some intersection improvements at Commerce Drive and Bankhead Highway right after the 7861 intersection right there. It gets back up frequently when people want to make a left turn and there's no turn lane there. So we're
You're talking about beside CVS where they come out of
Yep.
Commerce. So if you're coming from, everybody knows where Chick-fil-A is, towards CVS and you need to make a left?
a right or a left onto 78 there. We're looking
Yeah,
at
if you want to go straight, you're a problem. If you want to turn, you're okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's-
exactly. So if you're coming from, if you're coming from City Hall basically, and you get through that 7861 intersection, there can be at times backing into the intersection because folks want to make a left turn onto Commerce. So we're looking at what kind of intersection improvements we can do there to mitigate that. Eventually, we know that GDOT is going to convert that entire intersection to I think you mentioned, Mayor, that it may be the largest roundabout in Georgia, I think. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but.
That's the word, but
Yeah.
who knows for
So,
sure.
Whatever we're doing, we're hoping to do it in conjunction with, kind of as a preparation for, I should say, probably a better word than conjunction, in preparation for how that's going to look ultimately. So those are the big 3 that we had discussed.
Well, bless you guys for addressing the one behind Walmart. That's probably been as long, maybe even longer than I was even on council, is that traffic coming at.
That's been 20 years. I moved here in 2003. That was an issue, and we were much smaller.
Yeah.
That was an issue. I think you moved around the same time,
08.
early 2000s. But yeah, they when we moved here from outside of Atlanta, this is outside of Atlanta, but never mind. I digress. But it was an issue then, and it was just a
Yeah, so-
hellacious left.
Glad to hear. Keep us updated, because I take that route a lot too, right? Avoid racetrack and the other areas and take, some of the back ways places. Finance Chairman Danny Carter.
Okay, I attended a meeting on July the 31st, a budget review meeting in attendance with the mayor, city manager, deputy city manager, and Jennifer and her finance team. We reviewed the budget for next year, had an initial review. Do we have a meeting scheduled for the finance committee itself to get together and look at that budget? Not yet. Okay. So we haven't had a meeting yet as far as the
Yeah,
budget.
so
but we're-
far, it was only you, the chairman, and I think we
Yes.
had another one scheduled, and then the,
I'm sorry, I take that back. It was you two, and then Stephanie and Mackie the next day.
Okay.
ended up breaking it up that way, so.
Which brings to mind, we have 3 members of the council in every committee. When we have a meeting, how are we getting around the law on that? Will we have an official meeting?
I know with, I'm sorry.
That's
I know
okay.
with recreation, Teresa had posted that.
So on each of them, because there are 3 of y'all, much like these meetings, there is regularly scheduled meetings that are on each of the sites that, so finance has the finance committee schedule listed, the PD has theirs listed, recreation has theirs listed, and so whenever I receive agendas for those, then we will post those on social media or on the
I'm
website
just
as
saying that
received.
three council members makes it an open meeting, so,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we,
She's advertising it as an open meeting.
okay, we are advertising an open meeting for
yes, by
those.
putting the schedule out,
Okay.
yes.
I just want to make sure that was happening, because a lot of people ask that question. That's it.
Okay, and I was just going to see if y'all were awake. That's why I missed public safety. And so we'll go back and do public safety. Chairman Momtahan?
Yes, so please forgive me because for some reason or another, I actually thought that I was the chair of the transportation, which is kind of why I had those conversations. But then I realized this morning, when I looked at this, that I was actually chair of the public safety. And fortunately, Chief Mansour and Councilwoman Marshman saved me by giving me an update here on paper. So thank you all very much. So I will go over just some highlights here. I'm not going to go through the whole report. We've had one criminal investigation case go to trial from a 2022 rape. The defendant was found guilty and sentenced to a life without parole. So, thank you for our police department for doing all the investigative and due diligence work to assist the district attorney in getting that person off the streets. Another case we had, was a search warrant for sexual exploitation of children, which led to the investigation of multiple electronic devices being examined and an arrest in that case, pending further information on that. We had 2 promotions. One was promoted to detective, and another was promoted to corporal. And we had another officer rejoin the police department, and will be going back to that officer's former rank. The police department did host a management level 2 training, and Chief is teaching at the new Chief School starting August 15th, and the Citizens Police Academy begins August the 15th, and 17 students are signed up for that class. So.
If you haven't done the police academy, I mean, it's demanding to a degree. You sign up for, what is it? Is it 8 weeks? 8 weeks, but I've never seen a group that's gone through it that hasn't said it's really rewarding and educational and fun. So y'all make it fun while you're also learning, and at one night maybe pretending you're actually an officer having to make decisions. So my husband and I did it a period of years ago. I'm really glad we did. Some of the committees where this will come in real handy is, let's use the police department, for example. They realize maybe they're going to be short on some things, or, hey, we've got this issue, we're going to need to make some changes. That committee might be the first one that would start to hear, from the chief, or in recreation from Tracy, that we've got to do something with this park, the fields don't drain, or whatever it might be. They would kind of not necessarily be the advocates, but the one that are listening and taking it in and making sure that we're up to date, and know ahead of time that some of these things are coming down the pike for budgetary reasons, or maybe it would be something crucial that we need to address immediately, with turnover or whatever it might be. But anyway, thank you all for that. And I would say that some of these committees, recreation, we used to meet quarterly, but I know we got a late start this year. Something like finance may only need 1 or 2, because that's primarily around the budget, which is this time of year. I don't really see any sense on you having 4 meetings a year. So y'all decide which works well on that. Housing Authority, thank you. I learned something new I didn't know, because I was wondering what they were going to do with the old buildings too, and I hadn't heard that from Dick Chambers. So we're going to, we don't have to do anything with that item. It was discussion only, so we're going to move to B, building development, Villa Rica Civic Center and Sports Complex scoreboard replacements. Mr. Griffin.
Good afternoon.
Hey there.
How are you guys? This item is a budgeted item. It was, the purpose is, and the intent is to replace 9 scoreboards that are currently occupying our fields. And I want to give a shout out to Miss Tara Ivy. She helped me with some of the history and some of these forms while I was on some other projects. We did put out a formal RFP and invitation to bid. It was published on our website, and we had reached out to some local vendors and also welcomed any new vendor that would like to participate in this bid. Staff is recommending, well, the scoreboards that we're replacing aren't all of them. There's 9 total that are about 26 years old. A lot. I mean, they have many issues. I've been on a ladder working on these things many times, without a manual or anything. So I'm glad to see them being replaced, and I'm sure the public will as well. Major Displays Inc., a representative from this company, is here if you have any pertinent questions for him. They were the lowest bidder for the product that we had specified. In the RFP, we put a table and specifications for a specific product that the Recreation Department really wanted. Major Display Inc. bid on this project and replacement, and their quote came in at $73,594. Staff recommendation is to engage with this company to furnish and install these scoreboards. I have reached out to 3 of the references that we require in our RFP. All 3 of them had great reviews and highly recommended this company. And I have included all of that in the packet. We did have a closed bid requirement, so they sent these bids in. And staff had opened them up, so there'd be no question about anything. So that is our staff recommendation.
I was just amazed that they didn't have parts for them anymore, being that they're 26 years old. I don't even have a boombox that old or a transistor radio, and I keep those around for hurricanes or tornadoes or whatever it might be. But
Very, very old technology.
Yeah.
Very hard to work on. Anyway.
Any questions from council?
Yeah, one question. Specifically, what was the problem with the low bid that disqualified them? I see the low bidder was $70,000.
They didn't bid on the product that we specified. So the Recreation Department wanted a specific scoreboard and controller, and they bid on another product.
Oh, they
And-
tried
and that was
to
specified.
substitute the scoreboard for something else.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
We wanted everybody to bid on the exact same thing.
Okay.
Yes, Councilman Momtahan.
Nick, I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but I think it was our most recent retreat, there was a conversation about whether or not we can get sponsorships to help offset the cost of this. I believe the existing scoreboards have sponsorship information from Coca-Cola and Bank of North Georgia, which hasn't been called Bank of North Georgia in like 8 years. So, I see the funding as Carroll County SPLOST, but were we able to get some additional funds to offset the cost of that?
I can speak from what my current knowledge is that we did request an area for a logo on these scoreboards, and I know Tracy Ivy is also working with some of these vendors, so we haven't requested a funding contribution yet, but I know the rec department is looking for sponsorships actively, so if anybody, in the city or any company.
Okay, excellent.
That's a good topic for the rec committee,
Absolutely, yes. ma'am.
right? I mean, from the time I was a kid and the boys played Little League, because they had hardly any girls' sports then until later, you would see those advertisements, community partners that, help fund some of that. So that's good. Yes, Councilman McCoy.
I'm drawing a blank, but on the sponsorships, have y'all thought it through to where there's like a tier or something yet, or are we just at the point where are we in the process? Is that we're thinking that it's going to happen, but we haven't executed a plan yet?
I'll have to let Miss
That's a
Tracy
trick.
Ivy
Okay.
answer that.
That's a Miss Ivy question.
Hi, I'm Charlie. I'm with Major Display.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Hi, how are you? So I was just going to touch on sponsorships. We actually have a partnership with a marketing company that we're working on now that we could actually extend that to you as like one of our services to reach out when we do get Doritos, Pepsi, big companies. I will reach out directly to the city and all of my other clients and award them an opportunity to work with that program as well.
Should we tell them we don't do Pepsi, or is it,
Yeah.
you know,
That-
this
I
is
just said
Georgia?
that. I don't drink Pepsi. I'm a Coke drinker, but yeah. But I just use that as a.
But yet Pepsi was the first thing that came to your mind.
Yeah, I don't know why.
But I drink Pepsi.
All right, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, no worries.
Wait, which one does Dr. Pepper? See, so I have a
Pepper's
compromise.
independent
Okay.
Just to give you some kind of history on why Coca-Cola probably was represented as a sponsor on those is back in the day, Coca-Cola would provide you coolers for your concession stands, menu boards. They would provide you some supplies. Then it got to be where they required you to purchase everything directly through the bottling company. And it just became too expensive for, association-run programs, and even if we ran our own programs like we do, to purchase that stuff. So people go to Sam's and buy it in bulk and that kind of thing. In addition to that, Coca-Cola would come out and maintain all your scoreboards, and there may be, I don't know how many people are left that still do that, but to find somebody that can come out and service the scoreboards from Coke, it's almost obsolete. So that's a thing of the past. So in terms of the sponsorship, we would like to talk about a different tiered sponsorship program where it might be banners. Some people don't like banners on your fences, but if it's done in a uniform manner and maintained, it can be nice and it can be a great moneymaker. And then, as Nick mentioned, all the scoreboards have I think it's a 5x4 foot section for a sponsorship. So some company could sponsor all our scoreboards, or some could say, well, I'll do 2 for a year, or so there's a lot of twists and turns and a lot of different ways you can make it happen, but it is definitely something we'd like to do to offset the cost. So
Okay.
Tournaments would be good for that as well, correct?
well, tournament people don't care about a scoreboard. It's the local parents that care about a scoreboard. Our kids, our young kids that are learning the game and learning about the score and home and visitor and that kind of stuff, they want to see a scoreboard. Our biggest complaint comes from our parents.
Well, but
That-
offsetting that cost.
It could. It could. I mean, we don't generate a ton of money on tournaments. There's a false idea that we're going to make a killing off running tournaments. We don't.
Okay.
You really don't. So the sponsorship program will be a much better way to recoup that money.
Even for pickleball? We love you, pickleball people. We do. All right, any other questions from council? If not, anyone opposed to making this consent item number 5? All right, that'll be consent item number 5.
Thank you.
Thank you. Community development. Is Nina doing the presentation? Okay. Hey there, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Afternoon, Mayor and Council.
It's good to see you. You're way out, way out there, and it's like only emails. It's good to see your face in here.
I know. It's nice to make my inaugural presentation, but so I just wanted to make sure that you all do have the updated application sheet, because there was a change with the applicant. So you have Avamore GA LLC as the applicant. Okay. Okay. The applicant, Avamore Georgia LLC, seeks an extension of the rezoning for Avamore from rural development to planned development, which expires on September 12th, 2024, contingent upon certain conditions and just, those sort of things, the LDP. So he's making good on most of the conditions to keep those extensions going. A little bit of the background. The City Council approved the Avamore project at 55 and 63 Goldworth Road in 2018 with a total of 200 single-family units, 300 multifamily units, and live-work units, along with a host of other uses, including senior housing, which includes independent living, memory care, and a minimum age restriction of 55 years. In 2020, the city increased the total number of single-family lots to no more than 250 units, and the multifamily units to a maximum of 325 units. In 2021, the city approved an additional 290 units of senior housing with a minimum age of 55 years. The applicant is returning to extend their zoning approvals for another year as specified in the original and subsequent conditions placed on the conditionally approved project. At this time, staff is recommending that to table the discussion and reserve taking action to next council meeting on September 10th to allow for additional advertising. Some of the conditions the applicant wanted to change, and so we need a little bit more time to review those conditions. And we thought with the extension of time and the changes being made to the overall PUD, it will be a cleaner process if we included both the extension and the changes or the revisions to the PUD at that meeting.
Now, that there's a deadline date too. Does this affect that deadline date?
It's before the deadline. The deadline is September 12th, and the hearing would be September 10th.
I think I'm looking for some guidance here with the deadline date. There's not a public hearing with this. It's whether we're going to extend the time for the zoning, because if you don't move dirt, okay, so if you don't move dirt or show some progress, you only can keep that permit for so long, right?
This has come before this council yearly for a while, so,
Yeah.
so last year, council voted to approve to continue the PUD zoning for another year and placed 10 conditions, I believe, on the continuation of the PUD zoning. So I can't speak to the status of those 10 conditions. The applicant is here, and I think the city's or staff's position is the applicant's got another application pending before staff that will go through planning and zoning next week.
Yes.
All right, so next Tuesday night, and then would come back before this body after that. So there's two applications pending. I think the applicant wants those treated completely separate, but this council's going to have to decide issues on this zoning twice. And I think so staff's position is to table it, and that would need to be done tonight if that's what this body decides, to table it until the next council meeting. That would provide an opportunity for everything to go before planning and zoning and back before this committee with their recommendations.
Okay, so two different topics. One is to seek the extension of the rezoning. Then from the applicant, they want to make some changes also to the PUD?
That's correct.
That would be
That's
correct, to the PUD. They're two separate issues. Hang on. Two separate issues, but you're wanting us to combine them in the same meeting? Is this for efficiency or?
It's for efficiency. Also, the applicant has also requested changes to the conditions. One of the conditions to the extension is that they're meeting the conditions. Some of the conditions the applicant wants to change, and so this will allow staff to revisit the conditions that the applicant wants changed, because there's a couple conditions that have not been met. And so we want to make sure that we're kind of on the same page. We're reviewing the conditions that they want to change. And so once we're able to review the conditions and,
Okay, so they are linked together.
Yes.
They're linked together because there are certain conditions. If you're wanting a change in conditions, would it be appropriate you have a question, and then would it be appropriate for us to hear from the applicant so that they
Yes.
can kind of give their side of the story
the
on
applicant
this?
is here, so if
Okay,
you want to.
hang on one second. Do you want to wait, or do you have something now, Councilman Warmoth?
No, let's hear.
Okay,
Let's
all
hear
right.
from the applicant first.
Okay. Mike, did you want to come up? Okay.
Who are we hearing from? I'm sorry.
Oh, are you, Brett? Mike Embry, okay.
Mr. Embry, did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Mike Embry, I'm managing partner of Embry Development. We own Avamore GA. Is that better?
Oh, much
Did y'all
better.
hear
Thank
me
you.
before?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes, we've asked for an extension of the PUD, the rezoning, and the conditions that we were discussing that we wanted to update. Some of those were revisions, I think, from the city council through the years as it was renewed, which we wanted to bring back all of those and combine them. And then also, we wanted to add one where the work that we've done has vested us in the project. As you were talking about, we renewed the development permit, we've renewed the bonds, we started on our silt fence, we have our development permit, so we're gonna move forward no matter what. We're fully funded, we've got commitments, so the project's gonna move forward. But the reason for the conditions, we wanted to combine some of those that were, as I said, through the years, were, I think, city council changed some of those items, and we wanted to combine everything back into one and then add the vested interest in there also.
So they're changed or they're combined?
We want to combine them. There's been a few through the years that have been separate, and we wanted to combine those and put them in there, and then the vested interests. So there's some changes in it, and yes, she's correct that there are changes to the PUD. We're asking to renew it, but we're also asking for these conditions to be approved also. And we do have another application that is going through planning and zoning next week, then comes back up in front of y'all September 10th.
Okay, so, I mean, from my point of view, I can see if there's going to be changes, why it would we'd need to hear that before we approve the extension. I mean, that kind of makes sense to me, but at the same time, is the date, does that date comes before the deadline? Does that protect your vested interest? When we talk about vested interests, somebody's got a property, they've already put in, I don't know, utilities, they've spent money, in other words, so they have a vested interest. It's not just a vacant property set there, right? You've got money into a project,
Yes.
whatever that project might be. Is that date, and I'm looking at staff to a degree, is that date going to work?
Councilwoman
Yeah.
has a question, I believe, someone.
Councilman McCoy?
I have a comment for you. I have a comment for you and a question for Kevin. I'm going to start with Kevin. And if, this is my question, the dates are so close, as long as it is approved by council on that date on public record, then it's in effect. It doesn't matter if it's fully executed until like 3 days later.
Right. Yes.
Okay, so once we approve it, it's fully executed.
Yeah, they're not going to lose their zoning if we can take it up at the next hearing.
Okay. And then my comment for you was, I was wanting to say that, and this is mostly for the people watching at home, is that you're a different, it's the same name, but you're a different entity than has been here the years before, correct?
Yes.
You're not,
The project has the same name, but we purchased it 9 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we're fully funded. We have commitments for the different phases of the project, so we're moving forward with it.
okay.
But yes, we purchased it in December of last year.
Okay, I just wanted to make that point clear, because all this time before, it has been a different physical applicant coming and
Correct.
doing the stuff like that. Those were my only two questions.
Yeah, from a standpoint, for me, I'm not trying to muddy the water with the conditions or changes through the years. We were just trying to get something combined. If we do the renewal, that we took those, put them, showed we have vested interest so that that's on the record. But we can accept that, wait till September 10th, if that's what the mayor and city council wants to do and is recommended by council, legal counsel. We wanted to renew and then do that separately. That was the way we wanted to do it, but we can, whatever worked best for the city.
Any other questions from council?
Well, I guess, I don't know, Councilwoman Warmer still had her question, so, but if not, then,
Oh, go ahead.
okay. I guess I'm just taking a look at the letter that was dated, I don't know when this letter is dated, actually. There's no date on the letter that I can see. But what I'm presuming is the was a letter to the council for a PUD renewal condition request. And I'm trying to just, of course, I'm ballparking, kind of eyeballing this, but I don't see where you discuss, I guess, combining conditions, and I don't see that any differences between what's here and what was there before.
That
So,
was the conditions from before. We sent an updated letter
okay,
to staff that showed that. That if we
Yeah.
need to, we can
Sure.
show it tonight that had some different things in it.
no, this one. This is the letter I'm looking at right here. So is that, so these are your proposed conditions, is that correct? Okay, so how are these conditions, go
Those
ahead.
were actually older conditions that were with the project before, that was
Okay.
changed by city council when it was renewed.
Okay,
Each
so.
year as it came up, there were some items that changed. We were trying to go back to what was originally done or combine some of those and kind of, because every year it's different. We wanted, if we renewed it, since we own it now, we wanted to make it clear and, that everybody knew what we were doing.
But the conditions were on separate places.
Some
Put
of
them
them
all
were
together.
changed.
They're here. Got it.
Yeah, I guess, but when I looked at I guess it's this one. Wait, I know there's some comments on there, but I guess I'm not seeing a significant difference between these 2023 conditions and the ones that you're say are combined, so,
They're not significant. We're just trying to make sure
okay,
when it's renewed, since it's in our name now that we bought it, we just want to make sure of exactly what it is and that we're not
That you're
piecing
agreeing
together
to.
soming from years
Okay.
past.
Yeah.
Is what
Okay.
we're trying to do. We're
And
not
then-
trying to confuse anybody. We just want to
Sure.
know exactly what we have.
okay, and then you want the council to basically affirm that you have vested rights, because that's the last
That's
condition there.
correct, Yes.
And I don't know if that's, in my experience, I don't know if a governing body has ever made an affirmation that anyone has vested rights. That's usually a staff determination, but is that something that staff is comfortable with?
I bring that up because that way it's not ambiguous. I feel we have vested rights.
Sure.
I mean, if you ask me, we do, but I like it to be known that we do have vested rights. Just,
Okay.
from a legal standpoint, I believe you understand the law probably better than I do.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know what staff's view on that, or Kevin or Jeff or whomever. But that all being said, I guess I'm okay with tabling this until the September meeting. It maybe let all this kind of
And that
continue to
can be
work itself
addressed
out.
at that
Yeah,
time.
but
Yeah, and I'll be here at 6 o'clock tonight also, if there's any other questions or comments that you come up with.
Councilman Wormuth?
One of the changes from 2023, because I can see where in 2020, 2021, your maximum number of single-family units and multifamily units, the single family was 250 and the multifamily was 325. And then it changed to, in 2023, to no more than 220 units for single family and no more than 303 units for multifamily. So what you're proposing as part of your conditions are to return to 250 single family units and 325 multifamily units in addition to 290 senior housing units.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Staff or for the applicant?
Like I said, we'll be here this evening also if there's anything else needs want to discuss.
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question for Nina. The applicant says they're ready to present and they're going to be here tonight. What is, now that we've discussed everything and it's clear as mud, is there, what is the purpose of holding off until the next. Oh, you said something about advertising, correct?
Yes.
Okay, never mind. I answered my own question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, if this ends up that it's going to be tabled or whatever action, that'll have to be for this evening, so this cannot be added to consent one way or the other. Item 2 is the one that's been removed, correct?
Yeah, you will have to remove it tonight.
Okay, so item 2 stays on here tonight. We can table it or whatever staff is recommending at this point, because I don't recall the details on that. All right, item number 3, VA-09-24, 2 variance request, reduction of minimum landscape strip from 10 feet to 5 feet, and encroach within the commercial medium-density C2 45 rear building, and, rear building setback by 16 feet, and this is at 738 West Bankhead. Oh,
Mayor-
there you are.
Mayor, before we move on,
Like-
I need clarification on that item. Are we going to delete that item, or are we going to table it? The one that we,
The Star
I'm talking
Food.
about the one, we're going to delete it tonight. Okay, thank you.
All right, so Mr. Daniels, if you wouldn't mind, as you step up, as I'm reading all this, just give people an idea of where this is, because I know people appreciate when they know the property other than 738 West Bankhead.
Yes. So while we're going ahead and getting up a PowerPoint, I believe a visualization is a little bit better for you all. But this is actually right in between the current CVS off of Highway 78, and it's actually in between that and also the new firehouse for Carroll County.
Thank you.
All right. And the applicant is Waffle House Incorporated, and they are requesting for 2 variances. The first one is a reduction of the exterior landscaping strip, and the second is a reduction of the rear setback. Now, just to let you all know that this is pertaining to a new development for Waffle House. I know that there's a existing establishment that's already there. It does not pertain to that. It's for the new development. Like I was stating earlier, or like the mayor was stating, that it is off of 738 West Bankhead Highway. It is a 0.60 acre lot. It's actually currently zoned commercial medium density C2. So the existing conditions, like I was stating earlier, there is a current occupant that's actually there right now. It's actually Hometown Auto Mart. They've actually been in business for quite a while, since 2000. There is a primary building that's actually there on the lot. It is a 1,296 square foot building. They also have 2 additional accessory buildings that are actually on that parcel. It is a 12 by 12 foot utility shed, as well as a 18 by 30 prefab metal shed. Now, the proposed development, again, is a Waffle House restaurant. It is approximately 2,000 square feet. That parcel will also have a reduction or a retention or a detention pond on that parcel. The applicant did state that they will have roughly 30 parking spaces, which is about standard for Waffle Houses, around 30 to 35 parking spaces. And the applicant did say that they'll have a dumpster enclosure, which will be on the southeast part of the parcel. Now, as you all know, we do have a existing Waffle House that is actually right down the street. I believe it's less than a mile. That's actually in that that corridor for exit 24. It's right before
The other
you get
side
to
of
the Walmart.
20. The
Yes.
other side of 20 in front of Walmart, basically.
Yes, ma'am.
Because the other one on this side closed, I don't know, years ago.
Yeah, it did. And
okay.
now it's a convenience store or something like that. So this rendition right here, this site plan, is actually have been provided by the applicant, and this is a rough site plan of what the building is going to look at and will look like, and the layout as well. The first variance request is pertaining to 7.05 subsection 6, which is our parking and landscaping ordinance. that states that the parking areas adjacent to other developed parcels will need a minimum planting area width of 10 feet, AE, like a landscaping strip. Similar to if you go to Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, any of those chains, they have a landscaping strip there. And the applicant is actually proposing to reduce that premier landscaping strip from 10 feet to 5 feet. And as you can see here, this is roughly what the required 10-foot landscaping strip will be. And the applicant is requesting to actually reduce that for 5 feet. As you can see towards the south of that parcel, the that rectangle that's right there, that's kind of diagonal, that's actually their dumpster enclosure. That's actually one of the main reasons why they are requesting this variance, is because the parcel is actually 0.6 acres, and for a C2 parcel, any new development C2 parcel has to be at least 2.5 acres. So this is a fraction of the usual C2 parcel will actually be. The reason is because in 2020 the city actually went through a citywide rezoning effort, and this was actually in that I-20 corridor, which makes it a commercial type area. So being that the existing establishment is actually closing down, this will actually be considered as a legally non-conforming parcel. And again, the first variance request is pertaining to the buffer, the landscape buffer reduction from 10 to 5 feet. Staff does recommend approval for this, again, only because this is a legally non-conforming parcel and because it's a fraction of the required 2.5 acre parcel that's usually for C2. The staff feels like it's going to be tough for any new development actually to develop in that minute, small parcel. So being that we do know what Waffle Houses are, they will have a relatively small building footprint and convenient 30 parking spaces, so that should be fine. And now diving into their second variance request, it is actually pertaining to their rear building setback. Now for a C2 parcel, they are actually required to have a 45-foot rear setback. I'm sorry, I'll just let the train go by. So.
You tried, Sean.
I tried.
You tried.
I don't have the pipes for it. So.
You're good.
We're good.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. So like I was stating earlier, most C2 parcels for new developments, they have to have a 45-foot rear setback. So the applicant is actually proposing to reduce that, or actually encroach into that 45-foot rear setback by 16 feet in order to have a new rear setback to 29 feet. I did actually highlight where that section where the applicant is actually proposing. As you can see, that blue line is representing that 45-foot required rear setback for a C2 parcel. It's, as you can see, is those that little box that's right there. I kind of try to blow it up a little bit. Those little boxes with those swinging doors that's over to the left in that black and white picture. That's actually their, if I don't believe, they're coolers. They're walk-in coolers. So as you can see, that building area is actually encroaching into the required 45-foot setback. Reasoning why the applicant is actually proposing for this new 29-foot setback, excuse me. So a little of the same why staff is actually recommending to approve this request as well. It's because this is a 0.6 acre parcel. It's actually significantly smaller than how a usual development of a C2 stature actually be. So staff, we actually looked at there wouldn't be any adverse effects to the subject lot, the adjacent parcels, or to the public if we do actually recommend for this approval.
Okay, so tonight, this will require a public hearing, so this will be carried over till tonight. But in a nutshell, these are pre-existing, to begin a whole new business and property, C2 would require 2.5 acres. So that's the reason variances or towns where it's just asphalt and concrete, straight from the road right up, no greenery. And if you'll even notice the difference that our zoning has, more greenery, more trees, more island space there. It provides a little more shade. It's more appealing, but it's also probably better for the environment in general too. So we're not just asphalt, asphalt, asphalt everywhere. And maybe somewhere where a little bit of the water actually soaks in. So the reason variances exist is because this is unusual. It's a little tiny property. They're trying to fit something on. And it looks like, based on what y'all are telling us, we can compromise to this extent without feeling like it's harming the businesses around it, the rear. And y'all gave, I don't know how you write these very long reports. I read it. I mean, it's detailed. Y'all made a great argument, for how you came to, not just help us decide, but how you came to your recommendation. Any questions from council? Yes.
Sean, would the applicant, since it appears that the biggest concern is on the rear setback, would the applicant consider just making their, particularly in the landscape buffer, only do it on the back, the 5 feet, and do 10 on the sides?
Yes, I actually asked that, but then when I look closer to the site plan, towards that west side of the parcel, they're actually trying to see if they can't reduce that landscaping strip, only because the parking lots, I'm gonna see if I can't go back to show you. I guess you can scroll down. See, towards that west side of the parcel, I believe those parking space 18 and 19 is encroaching that landscaping area.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Because this will come back tonight. But guess what? We'll save time because we'll have a lot of our questions already done. Councilman McCoy?
Mine is simple, and this is just a layman's terms thing. Why does a Waffle House need 30 parking spaces? Because I'm doing the math right now. It's 66 feet, but most Waffle Houses have no more than 10 booths. 4 people per booth. That's 40 people, and then say that's 50. So that would mean most people would have to come single-handedly out of car. And I know workers would work there. That's no more than 5. We're looking at 55. People don't drive. Waffle House is like the place to go when you're single or something, because so everyone drives alone. I just think it's a little much for them to have 30 parking spaces.
I said a number at the bar. Said I have never counted the seats, but I've seen that place packed out along with 5 or 6 people waiting anyway. But interesting.
Which is actually where my question was going. Without this variance, how many parking spots, what kind of difference does it make without the variance?
Right. So we do have a parking requirement. So it's every 300 feet, the applicant or the new development needs to have at least 1 parking space. So, if we do that, then I'm guessing they'll be going somewhere to 6 parking spaces, somewhere around there, 6 or 7.
Yeah, it's 6.666, 6.67.
But, usually all Waffle Houses have around, I'll say 28. I've done a little homework, around 28 to 35 parking spaces. Even the one that's over here by Walmart actually has, I believe, 31 to 32 parking spaces.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Mayor, that was actually, so I counted, according to the aerial imagery on Carroll Tax, that Waffle House is apparently 1,627 square feet, which is about 350, 400 square feet less than this one will be. Oh, really? And it has 34, 35 spots. So this is going to be bigger with less parking.
Oh, how about that? Because I kind of thought they were standard, but thanks for doing your homework. Any other questions? Okay, see you back for this one tonight. All righty, item 4, RA-03-24, rezoning 2 parcels from industrial low density LI to commercial medium density C2 for property at 615 Industrial Boulevard. This will also require a public hearing, so ready to go?
Ready to go.
Alrighty.
So the applicant, Scott Evans, is requesting to actually change 2 parcels from industrial low density I-1 to commercial medium density C2. Now, where these parcels are located, they're actually off of, Industrial Boulevard or AE State Route 101. And the parcel that's to the north is the larger of the two parcels, and that is 5.33 acres. And the southeast parcel is actually 2.9 acres. Did I break it? Okay, here we go. Now, I wanted to just go over a little bit of the surrounding area because that does play a very, very significant part for like rezoning applications. As you can see, this is color coded just to help, especially for me. I do love pictures that are actually color coded and immersive. But towards the north of those subject parcels, which is inside that red box that's right there, to the north of that light pink area is C1, which is commercial low density parcels. We have parcels that are actually up there like a Dollar General as well as the Villa Rica Gymnasium, or the Gymnastics Gymnasium is actually in that area as well. Now towards the east, where you see that collection of yellow parcels that's right there, all that is actually 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Street. So these two subject parcels are actually abutting, I believe, 3 to 4 parcels off of 3rd Street. As well as towards the south of the subject parcels are same like zoning parcels, which are I-1, as well as that dark gray area is I-2. And then towards the west side, all that gray right there is just essentially our Northern Industrial Park, which is all industrial medium density I-2 parcels. As well as directly across the street, we actually have our Gold Dust Park is actually over there as well. So dealing with rezonings, it's actually very, very important to look at our comprehensive plan and to look at the future land use map. So what does the city actually want these parcels or this area to actually see or look like in the future? So as you all can see right now, highlighted in that blue box area, these subject parcels are actually light pink, which signifies a suburban village. And you're asking yourselves, what is a suburban village area? Well, those create nodes and areas where potential for future development exists by establishing development patterns focusing on community crossroads. Now, what is a community crossroad? Well, that is actually any intersection or predominant road, AE, Industrial Boulevard, or State Route 101. So this suburban village area is characterized as for a cluster of commercial developments around the community crossroads, which include a intermediate surrounding residential areas which are in suburban in nature, just like the eastern part of the subject parcels, which is 1st Street, 2nd Street, and 3rd Street. Now the current site conditions, there actually are some couple existing buildings that are actually on these two parcels. We can focus on the main structure, which is actually on 165 Industrial Boulevard, which is the smaller of those two parcels, the 2.96 acre parcel. That's actually used to be the 101 Sales and Supplies building. I believe you all can probably see that where you're in traffic around 5 o'clock going towards Rockmart. That building right there is actually a 10,050 square foot structure. And I did highlight in that red box right there, and I blew it up so you all can see. There's actually another structure actually on the bigger of the two parcels, and that is a 1,200 square foot. It's kind of a roof with wooden supporting beams. It didn't have any walls or anything like that. So that's actually there on those two parcels as well. Previous establishments on those two parcels was Ace Hardware, Sales 101 or 101 Sales and Supplies, and then also All Plant Mechanical actually owned these two parcels up till earlier this year. So the proposed development, the applicant is actually proposing to perform a lot merger with these two parcels and actually make one parcel that is totaling 8.29 acres. And that 101 building, it won't be knocked down. The applicant is actually looking to expand on that 101 building. So they're actually trying to see if they can't do some exterior construction, including adding ramps, a extension to for a garage / bay door area, and facade changes. And
So that must still be in good shape. That was an Ace Hardware before that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So yeah, just like you said, I guess it has good bones because they're actually trying to see if they can't do a little bit of interior construction, gut it out, and have a showroom, reception area, offices, and a service area. And the applicant did say that the construction timeline will be somewhat about a single phase 6-month timeline to actually have this up and going. Now, this is what the applicant actually provided for us. This is elevations, each elevation, north, south, east, and west. The southern elevation is actually where they're going to be doing their main of their extension to their building. They're actually going to add 10 bay vehicle doors, actually, and they're going to use that, obviously, as you know, to service customers' vehicles. On the east elevation, which would be the back of the building, they're going to be installing a down ramp as well as 2 glass window garage bay doors. Towards the north, which will be facing those commercial areas like Dollar General, they're actually going to add a down ramp behind the service area. And then lastly, the front area, they're going to do a new store facade as well as a service area towards the left. Staff recommendations. So the applicant was seen in front of Planning and Zoning Commission last month, and Planning and Zoning actually voted unanimously to approve this proposal, as well as staff since we looked at everything, crunched everything up, and we see that we can actually approve it as well for a recommendation for 3 criteria. It'll be the density comparison, the zoning, as well as the comprehensive plan. So this proposal is less dense, as you know, as the current zoning, which will help for those people off of First Street, Second Street, and Third Street. They'll be very relieved to actually have something a little bit lighter and dense, and for it to actually be their adjacent neighbor, as well as it's kind of fits a little bit going towards the north end of that parcel where there is commercial-like areas. I mean, this is a little bit more denser than the north end, but it's kind of like a progression going into our industrial park, as well as in lines with our comprehensive plan as well.
So I printed off a few of the pages here because I thought this was important, the buffer screening. So we're talking not just about greenery, but over this, we did a change in zoning. There's required to have the vegetative buffer between low-dense varying, but if you're going to bring in industry and you're going to have residents there, it's important that those residents be protected. And I just say that we're talking about 75 feet. So that was important to me because of the people that live over there. And it gives specifics in your report that we use what's required, and it's minimum 8-foot either fence, wall, earthbound structure. I mean, I think this is a fabulous thing. We knew when we put in, when that bypass came in, that would be a desired area for commercial to come. And when we're talking about commercial development, that also brings in tax dollars, that benefits people that want to buy a product that they want, and yet there's not a lot of rooftops that come with it. It doesn't require as much, police presence, maybe circling through, but not the same as home. So there's less demand in some ways on particular services. But anyway, that was one of the big things I wanted to make sure is what kind of protection we had between them and the residents. The other is either more dense on either side or it's industrial. Okay, all right. Questions from council? Councilman Warmoth?
Hi. So I know, and I'm sure you're fully aware, right there, where this location is. This is the location of where the new roundabout is going. And that entire area has horrible traffic in the mornings, but particularly in the afternoons or in the evenings. So I know that obviously the goal with this bypass is that will help with the traffic, but because this bypass is not going to be done now. So what is their plan to address the traffic issues and not cause additional traffic in that area?
Right. So I do believe a councilman actually, or excuse me, a commissioner actually brought that up as well to see if we can't actually implement some type of traffic study or something like that. I did talk to the applicant about that. Now the representative is actually just the architect, so when he actually does come in tonight, we can actually speak on his behalf of a little bit more of the update about what's going on. But essentially, he was saying that since it is a superstore car dealership, that it wouldn't be impeding too much on the traffic. But as you're right, we do and our director actually did say that we probably will have to have some type of traffic study provided.
Yeah, because that area right now, I mean, I'm not opposed to this at all. It's already red at 3 o'clock. Yeah. I'm not opposed to this type of business. I'm not opposed to any type of business similar to this, but the concern is just, can we handle any sort of extra traffic caused from a business right now? Because that entire area is terrible to have to try and maneuver through.
Good question, thank you, because that triggered a few things for me too. The building is actually further south than up at that intersection. Okay, it's still where all the traffic is because it backs up there because it's a three-way stop. That will eventually be a roundabout and things will move a lot smoother, except that we got to figure out how to get everybody out of Reed Plantation. But as far as the road there, it's not right at the intersection. No. I'm pontificating a little bit here, but I'm thinking that in most cases, people would be coming from the south or off of 20 when you're going to a heavy car dealership. But whether they are or not, that's a state road. So would we not be asking GDOT what they require on that road? Because I'm guessing they're going to require, decel lane, especially, and what are going to be the stipulations as to curb cuts on there? How many curb cuts? Because the more curb cuts you have, the more you have cars slowing down to turn. I would think that GDOT would be a significant player in that aspect.
Yeah,
yes? Anybody got input on that, or have we communicated with them, or?
Well, yeah, that was my question. Have we, I know this is I would suppose the applicant's going to say we're going to use an existing curb cut, so we don't have to apply to GDOT for a driveway permit, but has staff thought about maybe sending this over to GDOT to get some insight on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for sure. We were just curious to see. I actually did contact the applicant because there actually is some road work that's actually being conducted there, and I was curious to see how much would the essentially the new road be encroaching onto that property. And I did see that it'll probably be encroached probably at most 50 feet into their property, but I mean it wouldn't be too significant. But I think that it would be very beneficial if we can actually get that a little bit more communication with GDOT.
Yeah, I mean, I think typically if this was probably a modern day, if this was it's a zoning now, but if they were going to build a whole new structure there and there was just vacant land with no existing curb cuts, GDOT would probably, like the mayor said, require decel lanes and turn lanes and whatnot. But if they're going to, is GDOT going to still require that, even though this is an existing structure, or an not vacant lot, or to address those traffic concerns? I think that's the question that us three seem to have, is that what's going to be done to mitigate the traffic issues.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we'll have to contact GDOT and get a little more information on that.
And if I may add, right now that's still just a 2-lane road. My understanding is that that will be widened once this project is complete, correct?
Yes.
But again, this is kind of where this is where my concerns are coming from right now, is because this project's not complete yet. And so it's only a 2-lane road. We've already established that the traffic is terrible. How, even just delivering the vehicles, how would a large truck maneuver getting in and out of that location to deliver those vehicles? I mean, like, even just little things like that, that's where my concern is and what I would like to have some clarification on. Simply because, again, this bypass is not completed just yet, which raises a lot of other concerns.
So I don't know what the build time is on this particular one, should it be approved. What's our estimated dates on the bypass? We had some at one time, but also I'll mention if you're thinking about that, when you're talking curb cuts, visualize over there Liberty Chevrolet. There's no curb cut coming out on the road. They're actually on the side. And they may be planning that. They may be planning, there's going to be the side road that you're going to come in and access everything else. So whether you're going to sales, you'd go, you'd turn, you'd go to the first one. That probably is shown on that plan. And I just, I'm not expert enough to look at that and really figure it all out, which is why we're relying on people that know more than us about looking at those plans. Now, they're not new to this. They have dealerships other places. Most of the ones down in Carrollton, you look at, they're off of 27. They're also off of state highways. So the 61, the ones on 61. So this isn't a new issue. The only difference is our requirements might be different for us, what we require compared to 20 or 30 years ago, when you didn't have to have a decel lane and small town everything, and what GDOT wants. And so I don't know where their desires intersect with ours.
And I can't answer that question, but the second part of the question was the unloading, the trucks bringing the vehicles there. I was not at the planning and zoning meeting, but I went back and reviewed it. And that question was asked by planning and zoning, and I think he explained that. I can't tell you exactly what it said, but I think he can explain that this evening, that their plan is to unload the vehicles on the lot. Anybody that drives through Carrollton, the Scott Evans, they unload those vehicles in the turn lane. They do not plan on doing that at this location.
Okay, so that'll be good. We'll have the applicant here this evening. We've gotten some questions answered, and some of it just showing, I hope we've demonstrated well the way the buffers are planned too, depending on, because it matters when something comes in, how it's going to impact those around them, and that's part of the study. Anything else?
I don't believe that there is even a turn lane right there, though, right? There is a turn lane right in front of this building? Okay.
I can't remember when I've driven in that building because it wasn't
I
like
drive it
public-
every day, I should know.
Well, but I mean, if you're not going to it, like when it was Ace Hardware, I actually dropped in there now and then. Now, I can't remember what it was
It's not a turn
before.
lane over there right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
I guess, Sean, one other is, when I first looked at the application and I looked at what we have here in our packet, I mean, we essentially have a survey with some buildings on it, which is, a basic survey. But what you showed in your presentation with the renderings made it actually look like there was going to be a larger building, like they're going to do an addition to this building. Is that the case?
No, they're actually going to extend. They're going to do expansion onto that south side of the building and actually have those 10 bay cars. So there's going to be, I believe it's like 30 by 50 feet. They're going to be extending onto that south side parcel.
So they're going to increase the footprint of the building.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I guess my thing is, if this is supposed to be the site plan that is used for zoning, it doesn't represent that here to us on what's been in the packet, whether it's the survey or the topo contour site plan. So it doesn't really, this is just essentially a survey, which doesn't really kind of give the council or planning and zoning insight. I mean, where's like the parking going to be? And I get it's all conceptual, it's all zoning, it's not construction, but this doesn't really check the boxes when it comes to some of the. I mean, for example, you just looked at the Waffle House site plan for the variance, and you saw much more of a kind of. I just don't know how this is accepted as a concept site plan and meet the kind of the give us the information we need to make a decision on it.
Right. So I actually I've been contacting the applicant just so the questions you've been asking, we've been actually asking the applicant as well if we can't get some type of site plan to actually have the extension that'll be right there. He's been telling us that he's going to be working on it. So I have to see if I can't just contact him and see if we can get a update. But for right now, we do not have anything showing the footprint essentially with the extension.
I mean, this is just my opinion, but when I used to work in your position, if the applicant didn't have an application to check all the boxes, then we told them you're going to have to come back next time. We didn't accept it, kind of half done. I mean, that's just me. I'm only one of 5 council persons. I can't, but that's just kind of the view is that, you know, our ordinances and applications are all published online. An applicant knows what is expected when they come see you, and if they wait to the deadline day or the day before the deadline day and they don't have everything, then they're gonna have to wait to the next round. I mean, that's because this information is just doesn't tell you anything. What you showed in your presentation was a lot more detailed, and then would have prompted me to maybe ask you some more questions, and we could have explored this whole turn lane issue and all that. If we had more information. So, and that's just my opinion. That's just my view on it.
Tell me if this makes sense, or correct me if I'm wrong on this, though. The other one was more about variance. They're not changing their zoning. They're already zoned correctly. They know what they want to put in. It's a, in this case, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, companies are going to be reluctant to spend a lot of money until they have the zoning. If they don't get the zoning, they're going to be sorry they spent that additional money. Would it be correct to say that they're getting the zoning here, but that there'll be other things that'll happen further down that will still require approval as we get further into the design?
Yes.
Would that be correct? So,
Yes.
so there's a check there so that we're not just going, okay, we're changing the zoning so you can do whatever you want.
Yes, and Matthew, Nina, she's been telling me that as soon as I presented, she's been drilling me on the same thing. But the way the order operation, just like what our mayor said, we didn't require a site plan as of yet. But when she came in here, she saw that, she kind of got on me to do the same thing, which I agree, especially with the extension. We don't have a clear understanding of where the south side is, if they would need some additional buffering and things like that. So I do agree that we should provide some type of additional site plan, even though in the past we haven't required a full site plan for a rezoning application.
Right. No, I mean, I totally understand, and I agree with the mayor. I mean, I don't want people to invest money into something that's kind of, on their part, they don't have any guarantees. But at the same time, everything we have is published, and people know what the ordinances are. And so, if you go to, I've just dealt with so many, and I've seen, if I have a zoning client, the first thing I'm doing is I'm reading the ordinance, I'm calling the staff, and I'm checking the application, and I'm hammering my client about, okay, you need to get all these things ready to go, because I don't want to have some council person telling me what I'm telling you.
Yes, sir.
Right now. That's me, but that's just my experience, so.
Any other questions? As we'll have a hearing tonight, and the applicant will be here to ask questions or answer questions. Yes, Councilman McCoy.
Okay, to kind of backtrack to what both the mayor and Matthew were saying, is that I agree with Matthew that it would be nice to have a site map where we could see it. I was also going to comment, this is a little tangent, but I was going to say you did a very good job of presenting. This is the first time I have heard anything about planning and zoning and was not bored to death. So I want to thank you for that. Your visuals were very good. They really helped me see it and answered a lot of questions I think we might have had. With that being said, though, as being a visual person, I agree with what Matthew said, but I also agree with what the mayor said that these companies probably don't want to put the money in. So with that being said, my question is this: what are they gonna, if they haven't done a site plan, we rezone it, besides a variance, what are they gonna come back for?
It would, if they will have to request for variance, that'll be the only thing. Now, I have been asking the applicant, will they be needing any additional variances? Will they be needing additional variances? But like Matthew said, since we don't have a site plan, we don't have anything definitive as of yet.
Mhm.
But for what he said and what we looked at on the documents that we do have, they shouldn't be requesting for any variances inside the future.
So in theory, with our ordinances, and in theory, if they completely followed our ordinances, they would not have to come back. If they had the buffer, like between the houses, like the mayor was talking about, the setbacks and stuff like that, they wouldn't have to come back. Is there a possibility that they follow our ordinances, but we still get some kind of monstrosity that we weren't really looking for, or there's an issue, or I shouldn't say it that way, but there's maybe an issue because they didn't come back, like Stephanie was talking about with the traffic. And I've said this a million times. I'm sorry I go by first names. I'm not being disrespectful. It's just hard for me to do. Councilman Warmoth, and even had it in my head, and it took a minute. Would it be, when, my question is this going to come back and bite us without a site plan?
My answer is possibly, but that only because if the addition, the expansion of the south side is actually within our setback, our building setback area, that can probably warrant some type of variance. But other than that, we don't see any other variances.
Okay.
But technically, I mean, we're zoning it to C2, so anything that's in the C2 zone could technically be built there. So if Scott Evans decided we're not going to do it there, then anything that's in C2 could be built there, unless we put a condition on there that says it has to be a car dealership.
And that's
I don't know
true.
if that's-
Yeah, in the
I don't know.
report, something more dense could be built there
Right.
based on the fact that they already have that zoning. They're actually having less density than is allowed currently.
Mayor, if I may, would it be acceptable to the council if we made this approval contingent upon two things? That that the applicant provided a site plan to staff and then to council, mayor and council, and the second thing, that do we get GDOT approval on the site plan? Because basically what they're doing is, I think you're exactly, somebody made this comment, I think they're going to see, if y'all vote not to combine these two parcels, that they have no way of even building a business there. If you do approve what staff has recommended, then at least that gets us to the next step, which would be the site plan and GDOT approval.
Bingo. Thank you. I like that, but that's just me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, but we can't do any of that till tonight. So are we good with this one for now? Good, okay.
Thank
I
you,
know we've
Mayor
got a
and
pretty
Council.
extensive agenda. Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Okay, approval of temporary signage for the 19th Annual Villa Rica Frontier Rodeo. Sorry, you know how they announce those things. Ms. Shabazz.
Okay. The applicant is Platinum Event Promotions, by way of Clint Chance. This is the 19th annual Villa Rica Rodeo, Frontiers Rodeo. Is scheduled for August 23rd through August 24th. The applicant seeks to place signs, 6 4x8 signs, 8 4x4 signs, and not to exceed 50 smaller signs, 18 by 24 inches. All signs will be placed onto private property within the owner's with the owner's permission, and no signage will be placed in public right-of-way. The applicant promises that the signs will be removed no later than August 26th, and staff recommends approval.
Any questions from staff? From council for staff? Can we, would the applicant like to share anything about the event or the signs or add anything to this? free advertising. I don't know.
Clint Chance, Villa Rica Frontiers Rodeo. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, for allowing me to be here today to present my request. This is the 19th annual event. Very proud to bring this back in a couple of weeks. As the director stated, all of the signs, we do have permission from the property owners. They will not be put in right-of-ways. They'll be put on private property. Also, those signs are numbered so that we don't forget where we put everything, and so by the first business day on the 26th, they will all be removed. So we're asking for your approval of that and the blessing of the event. As far as the event itself, just to give a little bit of background, it is sanctioned professionally by the Professional Cowboys Association. It is also permitted from the Georgia Department of Agriculture through the state of Georgia. This is not a contingent upon our approval, but we have throughout the years, through the 19 years, listed the city of Villa Rica as additional insured on our liability insurance policy. So that will be provided as well. As far as the safety features of the event, we do hire Villa Rica off-duty police officers to control the inside of the property since it is in the city limits. The portion of Highway 61 is actually under the jurisdiction of the Sheriff's Department. So the Sheriff's Department will control traffic control on Highway 61. West Georgia Ambulance will be on site through the entirety of the event. The fire marshal from Carroll County comes out and inspects the temporary seating facilities to make sure that that's safe for the community. So that's just kind of a little rundown on some of the other aspects. I'll be glad to answer any specific questions that you have. On a fundraising note, the Villa Rica High School band boosters, they will be doing all the parking, and they retain 100% of the parking, and that's a huge fundraiser for them each year. They've kind of gone back and forth between the band boosters, the soccer team, the baseball team. We've even had the football team 1 year out of the 19 years, so it's a big deal for them, local fundraiser, and they're able to make substantial money in those couple of nights.
Questions from council?
Clint, where is this going to be located this time?
It's going to be located at the same piece of property this year, but
Okay.
this will be probably the very last year. It'll be at that particular location.
Okay.
I only have one serious concern, and that is, are you going to have the monkeys that ride the border collies?
Not this year, but we do have a gentleman
I saw that one year.
that rides a horse and some cattle up on top of a trailer in the top of the arena. So that's a really big deal.
It's hard to miss that part. You know, it's not often you see a monkey riding a border collie. So it's part of the homework.
Yeah, we've
here.
had those a couple of years here as one of the specialty acts. That's a world-renowned act.
Okay, if there's no further questions, we could make this consent item C6.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Human Resources. Ms. Jenkins?
Hello, Mayor and Council. We are presenting the benefit renewal for the FY25 year, which will begin on October 1st, 2024. We have Wendell Strickland, CEO from Strongside Solutions, our broker here, and I'm going to let him speak a little bit to the renewal and the process they did for us.
Wonderful. Hello, Mayor, Council, staff, Chief. How are y'all today?
Hey, Wendell, good to see you.
Good to see y'all. Thank you for letting me be up here and presenting today. Once again, this is the annual insurance renewal time of the year. Can you believe it's already that time again? I think I turned 60 this year, so they seem to be going by faster and faster. Again, thank you for letting us continue to be your consultant and serve this community and your employees. This year we had 112% loss ratio. It's the highest year we've had in about the last 5 or 6 years. The contributing factors to that was really one, it was $1 million claim that got processed at $543,000 and 38 moderate to high cost claims. So it's just a big utilization year. You have those years. About every 4 or 5 years you're going to have one of those. So we kind of expect it to come sooner or later. The Angel RX program was able to save the city an additional $114,000, so that program is working well. The initial renewal came in at 27.4%. which was originally $588,817 annually. We were able to work that down to 9.63%, which was fantastic results of our insurance operations. They just did a wonderful job. Fortunately, you have a long history with your stop-loss market. They know how you run year over year, so we were able to work that down significantly. Overall, the plan is working well. Last year, you put in an enhanced ACA formulary that's working really good for the employees at $0 copay. The plan recommendation, or at least the recommendation that we would make, is to keep everything in place except the renewal. You have a really, really good plan structure. Your primary care copay is $0. You don't see that anywhere, and it's much richer than your competitors in the area still. Your specialty copay still is only $10. Your urgent care is only $20. So your plan structures are very, very rich, and they're very, very good for attracting and retaining your employees. They're doing a phenomenal job. Your dental plan, we're able to negotiate another renewal at $0, so it's renewed out through 2025. We did add a core and buy-up dual option last year, so we continue to support that. I think it's great to give your employees choice. The vision plan also received an extension and renewal at $0, so we got a 2-year rate guarantee for that. Basic life, we had also extended the renewal out to 2025, so there's a 0% increase on that. So basically, an accident cancer stayed the same. So the recommendation would be to keep everything as it is. The plan's running great. It's providing great access. It's providing great coverage to your employees. It is a 9.63% increase, and I think Ms. Tiffany will be discussing payroll deduction strategies going forward. Dental's running great. Vintage is running great. Basic life, ADD, STD is running wonderful. Accident, cancer is running wonderful. So our recommendation is just to approve it as is, and we'll maintain all these programs and lower the cost for next year. I feel like I was speed talking.
We're calculating everything. I will say those copays, employees, I can remember back to early 90s, 89, 92, 93, where it was lucky to have a copay that was 20 or 25 back then.
That's right.
So you are correct that those, and going to Urgis Center, $20. Now the emergency room, that'll get you, what is it, 500?
It is.
I couldn't remember.
But it's
That's
only if you're
which I
admitted.
avoided all.
Yeah.
It needs to be for emergencies, right?
That's right.
When it's something they can't do at, so the benefits are very good. Insurance is expensive. It just is. It's too expensive. But we do the best we can within the system, it sounds like, to keep it, to do what we can within a system that's where things are right now in the country. And so we really do have good benefits in this sense. Questions from council, or at least council that's left? Yeah, she let me know. She'll be back this evening.
I had a question and Shirley leaving made it leave out of my mind because she never leaves. Oh, I know. What is the deductible for the? Oh, I had a comment that you made because you were speed reading and you said we recommend approving it, and I was like, well, of course you recommend approving it, Wendell. So anyway, I noticed that because you were going fast. But anyway, what is does this plan have a deductible?
It does. Yes. ma'am.
What is the deductible and what's the maximum amount of pocket?
Goodness gracious.
I'm trying to
It's
remember.
$1,000 for individuals, $2,000 for family, and the max out of pocket for single, I think, is $6,000.
That
If I
sounds about
remember
right.
correctly.
Yeah.
And family was $12,000.
Okay.
And then on that copay, I imagine that they would have to meet their deductible before. Is that not the case?
Copays don't go towards deductible.
Wow.
It is a really, really rich plan. Y'all have, in your team, and I have worked for many years to get this plan to the low deductible that it is and the low copays. And when you hear the $20 cost for the plan to the employees on a bi-weekly basis, it's unheard of in your area. So to be able to run a plan with these amounts of deductibles and copays at the payroll deduction amounts that you're giving to your employees is absolutely better than any of your peers in this community and across the state of Georgia.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. So you said $20 and that's just for a single?
$20, yes, employee-only biweekly premium.
Biweekly.
We'll get to that in just a second, right after this.
Sorry, I'm getting ahead of
It's okay, you're
myself.
skipping ahead.
My apologies. It's just that this plan is just an absolute wonderful plan. And the programs that we've worked through over the years to make it this way is a representation of your staff, certainly, even this young man here and predecessors, just working hard to get this wonderful. And it did what it was supposed to do this year. It protected a couple of very sick families in 38 high-cost situations, and that's what it's supposed to do. And it's a little bit of an increase this year that we see, and but it is the best plan in the market that you have out here. And we do a lot of cities and counties across the state of Georgia, and it's one of our richest plans that I see across our book of business as well.
So it may not be a big increase, but 10% is 10%, right?
Yes.
And when you account for everything, you know, whether it's your other car insurance, everything else, it all adds up for people. So it's tough, but it seems like we're doing the best we can with what we have. Now, that doesn't mean it makes it easy, because did you say that the $1,000 deductible, that goes against your whole out-of-pocket, your cap before it gets paid at 100%? So an example might be if you, and I remember this from years ago, knee replacement still cost me $5,000 with insurance. That's a lot of money, you know? So for a family, you know, it could be something very different from that. So it doesn't mean it's easy, but there's people that have high just deductibles. But that 20% can add up if you need something major in the hospital. I realize that. It can still be difficult. Okay, so are we ready for the 9 or 10% increase or whatever
Yes.
we're hearing here?
So the next item I had was the premiums. We stuck with the same format that we've done in previous years as far as the percentage that the city covers for each tier, and we're remaining with the tobacco surcharge, and we're still keeping our wellness plan as well. So you can see there the contrast between the 2 years, and we had a total change of 9.32% in the premium on each tier. So we've got employee-only coverage. If you're in the wellness, not a tobacco user, you're looking at $20.80 biweekly.
Okay, so it has that 9% increase, or 9.3.
Yes.
How much, the city absorbs some, the employee absorbs?
Yeah,
a
if you
certain-
look on that second column, it says rate. That's the rate that the employee covers out of the full
Yeah, there you
amount. So we'll cover 95% for employees, 70% for employee, spouse, children, and family. And then if they're not in the wellness or a tobacco user, or vice versa, we cover 80% of the employee only.
Is the participation good with the wellness?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we're staying strong each year.
Is that pretty much blood work? I mean, what do we?
We do the health fair in March, where they come out, do the biometrics, and we've added in some extra educational boosts and that type of thing. We do our bi-monthly lunch and learns, and they have a ton of step goals they can hit on the portal. They can do online educations. They can go to Tanner for additional classes. That's tobacco cessation class. There's diabetes classes, all that good stuff. And
Hey, they're not required, but they're available. Is that
right,
what you're saying?
yes. The
Okay.
wellness is not mandatory, but it's just highly encouraged.
I see. I'll just say, they were talking about even cancer today, and they said at least 30% is self-imposed. And that's either from things like smoking, or it's the weight gain, the dietary, no exercise, things like that. So it behooves all of us to do what we can. I know, I was at the McDonald's drive-thru yesterday. It's all I had time for. But you know what? But that's no way to live.
It's okay.
So
Cheat day.
hopefully, you know, but a lot of it's self-imposed, even with diabetes, and we sure have our share of it in this country, don't we? But questions? Yeah.
It appears that the dental insurance is not going to change. The premium remains the
Correct.
same.
Yes, we were locked in with Mutual of Omaha for all of our coverages for them for 2 years. So we're keeping the same rate we had last year through this year, and then we'll see what that changes to next year.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
we could, do we have to handle handle these separately?
I think
The-
so. One's
yeah.
going to be approving the renewal, and then one's approving the premiums.
Okay. If everyone's okay, I don't see why we can't make these consent agendas. Okay, or add them to the consent agenda. All right, so that'll be C7 and C8.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. Lynn, library.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you? Oh, sorry. So I am proposing to fill a vacancy in the Villa Rica Library Advisory Board. Cheryl Bell vacated her position in the library board, and the library board itself interviewed several applicants and voted to recommend that Marilyn Glass fill that position. Marilyn Glass is an active member of the community, a member of Kiwanis, and a supporter of the Carrollton Center for the Arts. And the board believes that her connections in the community will expand the skills that they already have as an advisory institution. So staff is recommending that Marilyn Glass be appointed to the advisory board.
Any questions from council? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 9? Okay. You had to sit here a long time for that, didn't you? Think of how educational it was, though. Right?
I'm going to do science experience with 7-year-olds now, so, pray for me.
Probably more informative than this.
We should go to that one. We learned something.
More probably, yeah, for sure.
Okay, Parks and Rec. Miss Ivy.
Hey guys, again, this is really just a bit of some housekeeping. For about 30 years, and really that's a long time, Jeff, I know this goes back way before your time even, the city had an agreement.
That's a
or
long time.
A contract with the Three Rivers Commission. This is an organization that is funded through federal and state grants. They have many, many services available to our older Americans. In this particular case, we want to renew our contract with them. And basically, the greatest feature for this contract is the reimbursement of our meal program. So our home delivered meals, Stephanie had reported earlier, I know it was up in the several thousands. What this means is that we get reimbursed for the next cycle, July 1st of this year through next June, at a rate of $9.17 per meal that we serve. And then our congregate meals is where our seniors come into the rec center and eat. We'll get reimbursed at $12.21 per meal. So that's a lot of money that we get reimbursed. And all we have to do is have a senior center and leave it to us to have the fun and that sort of thing. And they love to come and eat. We have a really good staff that provides these meals every day. And I think this is a really, really good program. Last year's rate that we just finished, the end of June, our home delivered meals were $6.32 per meal, and our congregate was $9.73. So typically the increase is due to our operating costs that go up, our staffing, our food cost, our cable bill, and then we go through a very extensive audit through Three Rivers. Our Louise does a really, really good job working with Lisa, our center manager, and Tara on the financial reporting. And so we passed with flying colors, and so we're able to take advantage of this again for another year.
Questions from council? Quick one. This was probably a year or two ago. We talked about, I know Temple does their own. It actually comes out of their city funds. We do this, it's a federal program, and they reimburse us. I read the amounts. I think it's the $9.17.
$9.17 for home delivered and $12.21 for a congregate meal.
So I know we talked in a year or two ago about whether we should continue that way or go, should we ever consider a caterer and going in-house? What's your take on that?
I personally believe that this is really the way to go. Three Rivers does not only do the meal. Our seniors are eligible for a whole lot of services that they provide. It's in the contract that I don't know if you want to take the time to read. There's a lot of stuff in there that's, it's just too much.
I was going to say, isn't it about 50 pages, or it just feels like 50 pages?
It's not. It doesn't feel like it. It really is. But there's a lot of information in there, and it shows all the different services that our senior population is eligible to receive. Some of it there's a cost share, but a lot of it isn't. So if you're a member of our club, you can come in and say, "Hey, I need some help with some home care or some bathing needs or something additional than what we provide," and we can help them reach the proper organization. But I think this is a number one. We had generated $154,000 in reimbursements for the last cycle, and they're typically a couple of months in arrears, so we haven't even received all of it yet.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because it rings a bell now for me when I heard from Three Rivers about what they do. So those of y'all on the rec committee, this is all under recreation too for the seniors. You might even want to learn more about that. I need to refresh my memory. Somebody, because I run into seniors a lot, and I need to know what benefits might be out there that they are not accessing.
Absolutely, and we charge a $15 a year membership fee. Membership
cheap.
is $15 a year, and we do a lot for our group. This is just some icing on the top for the city because of the reimbursement. But one other thing, that just to show you some of the services that Three Rivers offers, on the 15th, which I believe is Thursday, at Powell Park, they're offering a dementia tour experience. So for family members that have been diagnosed with dementia, this takes you through a day in their life. So you can contact. I have a phone number for those of you that are here or who may be at home. I can read that phone number and contact if that's something that you might want to tap into. I know it's not part of the agenda packet, so people won't be able to see it online. But anyway, it's through the Three Rivers organization, AAA. Emily Rogers is the contact, and the phone number is 678-552-2850.
And I think it was included on the Villa Rica happenings.
It was posted
Was it
on
not?
the city.
I saw it
may have been on the
somewhere.
happenings, but it was on the city of Villa Rica Facebook page yesterday.
Okay, all right. I know I saw it somewhere with the information, so that's good to know. Anything else? Okay. Anyone opposed to making that consent item number 10? Okay, those of y'all that have been here quite a while. Chief Mansour. Captain.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Afternoon.
It's the time of year again where we come to ask for some patrol vehicles. Probably the most important tool besides the police radio that we need to be able to fulfill our duties here at the police department. There's two items that they go together, but they kind of don't, just for budget purposes. The police department is seeking 6 total vehicles. On this first item is 5 Ford Utility Explorers, which are the ones that we currently drive. This is going to be an advance purchase like we did in previous years, just because the lead times on patrol cars now are getting kind of crazy. And right now, a previous vendor that we have, which is Wade Ford in Smyrna, who is the state contract holder for these vehicles, they have some Explorers on the lot for us, and they're kind of holding up them for us. So we're wanting to go ahead and do that advance purchase for the 2025 budget, in order to go ahead and get equipment ordered for upfitting radios, in-car dash cameras, body cams, and all the lights and sirens and all the other equipment necessary to outfit a patrol vehicle. So on the second page there, I kind of broke down the totals for the project. Total project is $395,170.85. And it's broke down from Wade Ford, who we're getting the cars from, Motorola, dash and body cams, Metro Communications for the in-car radios and upfitting, striping, cradle point installation, and laptop computers. So that's the total there for the entire project. So we recommend that you allow us to purchase these 5, and then I will move on to the next and explain the 6th vehicle.
Any questions from council?
I got one question. We don't deal with Don Rich, and why is that?
They are not the state contract holder for the Ford Explorers anymore.
And they don't have the capability of supplying these vehicles?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 11? Okay. All right, the next
Okay,
separate vehicle.
Yes, so this is the 6 of 6 vehicles, I guess, for explanation purposes. This basically is going to be with the purchase of the 5, but this money, which is total of $79,137.17, is a transfer from unused funds from the current budget, which is 2024 budget. So we just ask that you allow this purchase from this year's monies.
Any questions from council?
Yeah, that seems to be a lot for one vehicle.
Yes, sir. The vehicle alone, I broke that down for you as well on this sheet. The vehicle alone is $49,515, and then all the necessary equipment is the remaining cost.
So this vehicle is not like the other 5?
Yes, sir. It's exactly like the other 5.
Okay.
Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 12? Okay. All right, CID vehicle. Which is investigative. Go ahead and tell us. CID.
CID, Criminal Investigations Division.
There you go. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This item on the agenda is the purchase of another vehicle for a detective in CID. Kind of to begin with, the funding for this is not a budgeted item, but the funding is coming from the Douglas Splost. Jennifer got with us and assisted us and said this money was available in that fund to purchase this vehicle. This will be a vehicle that an investigator drives to and from work every day. Right now, the investigator is actually driving a retired patrol vehicle. This high mileage, it's got approximately 115,000 miles. Having some maintenance issues, so it's kind of time that we rotate that one out of the rotation. To kind of give you a background on the way that we've done this in the past, just so we all understand. In the past, we've purchased certified pre-owned vehicles for the CID for the detective because those were the most cost effective and those work well for what they need. So that's what we did. We reached out to get some quotes for a certified pre-owned, and the quotes that we got, actually Hardy Family Ford actually sent us a quote for a new vehicle because they had some new ones that were coming in much cheaper than what we thought. Being that, we actually went back and talked to Don Richford and got a quote from them on a new one because we just wanted everybody to have the equal playing field, especially with them here in town. And they were their quote was not they were not able to match it or get close to it. It was about $1,200 more for what it would cost for a new vehicle from them. To kind of round it out, the one that we recommend, staff recommends purchasing the 2024 Ford Escape from Hardy Family Ford for $29,650. And then this one is kind of different as well, so let me explain it, and I'll be brief. The remaining amount we would use to put lights and sirens on it. In the past, we've actually used Metropolitan as the same ones that do the patrol vehicles to install lights and sirens on the CID vehicles. That's about $2,500 to $3,000. So in an effort to be as cost effective as possible, spoke to Chris Maddox, and he got some quotes, and we feel like we know, Chris, we can do it much cheaper. We can get what we need and do it much cheaper than the $2,500 to $3,000. So we're going to do it here in-house, purchase it, and install here by staff.
My page won't load right now, so I can't see it, but I recall you could get a new vehicle. It wasn't that much more than the pre-owned. I was shocked at how close it was. And just to reiterate, we buy local when we can. If
Absolutely.
It's even a little more, we buy local. But if it's going to be, if it's not even close, then we do go elsewhere because taxpayer money. So we've got to be, consistent with that. Any questions? Can, any,
Just
yes.
One real
mhm.
quick. So you said that Don Rich Ford was how much more on a new vehicle?
Well, at that time, they were a good bit more, but they actually have some more inventory, and we went back and checked with them because, like I said, we asked for certified pre-owned, and we want everybody to be on an equal playing field. We don't want, because those are oftentimes you're comparing apples to oranges when you're getting quotes on used vehicles because they're all different. So, in an effort to make sure that we want everybody to have the same opportunity, we went back to them and just said, "Hey, can y'all give us another quote for a new Ford Escape?" And the quote that they gave is it's approximately $1,200 more, and it's the baseline model. It's a little different than this one. It's a 2024 model, but it was approximately, it's like $1,180 more.
But it wasn't. Look, I'm not savvy when it comes to the vehicle lingo, but so I'm assuming that what you're saying is that the one at Don Rich was just not as good as the one at Hardy.
Well, they're both a similar model, both of them that we're asking for. The one at Don Rich that they have, basically the salesman, the way he said it to me, is the baseline model. It's the base. It's the It doesn't have anything special. We're not worried that's not a huge deal to us. We don't want to be outfitted in the best, or we consider cost effective first.
Right. Well, I mean, and
CID.
then you're talking about it's going to cost more for a lower end base model vehicle, and then I'm completely on board with the new vehicle versus the used vehicle because you're still going to be under warranty.
That's correct.
Under factory warranty with that. So yeah.
That's correct.
Any other questions? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 13? Public Works, Mr. Birch. Oh, sorry. Yes, Mr. Maddox.
Yeah, here I am. Good afternoon, City Council, Mayor and Council, sorry. So we are bringing up to y'all about getting some surplus items in the old wash bay behind the police department, which is going to be the WIC's go on the WIC building. It's a generator that used to be used for the police department that was phased out because of some obsolete parts that I was no longer able to get. I spoke with Nick. It's no longer usable, so we want to list it on Gov Deals. And then also there are some golf carts and just some miscellaneous equipment down there and stuff that no longer use. I don't want to say junk, but just no longer refurbishable. It just doesn't make sense to fix them. So
that's the nice way of saying it.
I did my best. So we would like to attempt, hopefully someone on Gov Deals would want them more than we do, and get a little bit of money out of them. So essentially that's what we want to do. The impact is make the area of the WIC's going, clean that up a little bit more, give it more room, and we just would like for you to allow us to list those on Gov Deals.
You have my blessing. Only thing that could have been better is to see them disappear quicker. So, yeah, we'll clean that up area better. It'll look more attractive downtown. We've got the car wash on the other place. We'll have the WIC building. We'll have additional parking. That's good. Yeah.
Where did we get
Hope you can get something for it.
golf carts from? Do you know?
I don't know. I spoke with
You never
Gunkel.
know.
He's our go-to on getting with the military, and I did get their blessing from him that we can do whatever we want to do with it. They don't want it back, so we have that as well. I do not know how they got them.
Okay.
Well, before I got here.
There was a period of time, I can't remember the year now, there's somebody here that would, but a number of cities got old military stuff. That's the stuff they didn't leave behind, the most recent. But I mean, a lot of stuff. And I mean, there were cities that probably got stuff they didn't even need because it was like, here you go. But, you know, Chief would probably, is that how we ended up with our Humvees?
Which we recently gave back.
See, so, and yet that's the stuff that got those kids home in the snow off the school bus, isn't it? So we put ours to good use. Okay, well.
Yes.
Costly to keep up and maintain.
And the current administration has been strong on coming after you. Want me to make sure everything's exactly as
Yeah. Yeah.
Bureaucracy
and
one thing
cost.
those Humvees is they are a little bit of a liability if you don't know how to use them. They do not have a park. So if you don't put the e-brake on, they will go. So that's one thing too, knowing how to use them so that you don't damage other people's property and stuff like that too.
Interesting. Okay. If there's no questions, anyone opposed to making this consent 14? Oh, 15. Where'd I lose track? Oh, it's 14. Okay, good. I thought usually it's me. I know. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Paving update. Mr. Elliott.
Good evening, everybody. What you've got on the screen is the 16 streets that are on our 2024 paving list. And then you've got the Carroll Vista subdivision that's sitting at the bottom. For the past 3 weeks, we've been in Carroll Vista. It's been a total disaster. Trying to get those roads fixed. All the subgrade is it's so wet.
Where's that? Out
That's
off of Lassiter?
Coach Best's neighborhood.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Built in the mid-'70s. You know, I guess we should have suspected, Villa Trace, the main road going in, had about 9.5 inches of asphalt on it. They just kept paving. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason for that, because the subgrade there is wet. And the extra layers of asphalt just help bridge the road up. So we've got South Lassiter's complete. Arrow Bend is complete. That's where Coach Best lives, Arrow Bend. Green Court is complete. We saved the main road coming out for last, thinking that surely it was going to be dry. It was not. The concrete mixing crew, they're taking their equipment back in there right now as we speak.
Concrete?
Yeah. For those of you that are not familiar with the old term of soil cement, they now call it FDR, full depth reclamation. If your subgrade, in other words, if your dirt area below your gravel base is wet, really wet, and in Carroll Vista it was like wetter than 2 feet deep. You have two choices. You can undercut that out and fill it full of larger rock to bridge your street up, or you can do soil cement, where they come in and they grind this thing up and they inject Portland cement into the subgrade. And what it does, it actually makes a concrete slab across your whole street. And then you put your asphalt on top of that. Well, that's what we didn't get finished back in 2020 when COVID hit. We couldn't get a contractor back in there because you couldn't get Portland cement. The supply chain was just closed down on Portland. So it's been sitting there since then. We're working on it now. And just about 2 hours before this meeting, the guys called and said, we got another problem. We got 2 metal cross drains out there in Bill of Trace that have collapsed. And picture this, we got the paving contractor starting from the dead end, working his way out. Mm-hmm. We got 2 cross drains that we've got to try to get replaced before they get to it, because we don't, heaven forbid, having to cut new asphalt to put in a storm drain. Mm-hmm. So we're fighting that battle, right? But anyway, getting back to the paving list. This list appears exactly as it did on the bid quotation. There was no priority listed on any of it. Well, as of today, we have established the priority. And pardon me, but your copy on the screen doesn't have the numbers on it, but mine, I've got mine.
Can we get emailed a copy
yes,
of that?
I'll fix this. But anyway, before I get into that, we are not going to have enough money to do that entire list, especially since we had to add Carroll Vista as a change order to try to get it fixed. So we're going to stretch the money as far as we possibly can, with prioritizing worst to best.
That makes sense.
And wherever that wherever the money runs out, then they just have to wait till the next time. Edge Road is number 1 on the list. And I'll give you the reasoning. Edge is remote. It's got a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit on it. It's got no street lights. It's got no paint, no anything. It's just dangerous to drive, especially at night. That is the first priority.
While you're on Edge Road, would you look at the three-way stop on the west side of the freeway stop?
You told me it's on my list, and I just
okay, it's
I
about a
haven't done it.
1-foot gully
Yeah.
now, and it's undercutting the road. So,
well, Edge Road is only going to be the part that we're going to do is going to go up to where Peach State Trucking is going to stop. In other words, that will marry it together. What they're going to do and improve, we come to that.
you're going to come from Daniel over
Yes.
to that? Okay. Well, that goes through the three-way stop, so
Yes.
you got that problem to deal with.
So we've got Edge Road number 1. We've got Old Town Road number 2. It's basically the same. It's a little bit better lit, but the speeding is, and it's narrow. Yes.
It's got that
So
it's got that rise that's kind of, it's blind as you're coming up to the intersection.
It's number 2, and I talked to the paving contractor, and I said, look, what we don't want to do is we don't want to make the paving contractor pave a street over here and then load up all of its equipment, go all the way across town. But he said he would work with us on what we wanted. Number 3 is Old Stone Road. It's the section from 61 to Walker Street. It runs right down past the Walton. The street is just in shambles. So that's where that one is. It's not the other side because it's been paved more recent. Shoreline Parkway in Mirror Lake is number 4. Those streets in Mirror Lake haven't been touched since they were built, 97, 98. It's the most traveled street in there. We've got it at number 4. Maple Valley Drive is number 5, runs off of South Wilson. It's in the area that Dr. Mims, she lived on Hickory Trail, but it's in terrible shape too. Tyson Road on the Douglas County side. It's number 6. Thomas Dorsey is number 7. South Dogwood from 78 to South Carroll is number 8. Daniel Road, only parts of Daniel. Now we didn't include all of Daniel because we didn't have enough dollars to do that. But we've got a bunch of about 2,000 feet of Daniel that we've got in the list. East Wilson is number 10. Harmon Springs in Mirror Lake is number 11. East Industrial Court it runs right past where the rezoning thing was, what Scott Evans was going to do, or pretty close to that. Only parts of that were included. That's number 12. Hickory Level Road from the city limits back to 61 is number 13. Ridge Lake Drive in Mirror Lake is number 14. Neighborhood Walk in Mirror Lake is number 15. And Bridgewater Point in Mirror Lake is number 16. The local streets and subdivisions, unless they are just absolutely, there's no asphalt, they're just potholes everywhere, whatever, they'll be okay because it's 25-mile-an-hour posted. But these like Edge Road, Old Town, Old Stone.
So if you're at the top of the list, you can feel pretty good about it, and we'll just wait and see what's there. There'll be something on here that won't get done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
it'll go on to the next list.
well, Stephanie has her hand up. I'll let her.
So not to add to the list, but I don't see Rock Mart over in Fullerville on here, and there are some of those really large plates covering the road. Is that something? There's the large plates. I don't know what the technical term is
On
for them.
Rockmart?
In Fullerville, down through Fullerville on Rockmart Road.
Yeah, they're probably utility cuts.
Yeah, they're
John?
still working on either water or sewer lines.
They're utility cuts. Rockmart it didn't appear on the list even from the beginning.
No, I understand, but I know that that's a concern for some of my constituents that they have expressed. So I'm just asking when the repairs for that will happen.
I can say any repairs under those plates are complete, so those can be patched or paved at your.
Yeah, we have a running list of utility cuts with plates on them, and rarely does it go more than 30 days before the plates are removed. Permanent patches put, done.
Okay. No, I mean, I didn't think that this would fall underneath the street list for the paving projects. But like I said, my constituents have expressed concern, so I just wanted to make sure that I expressed that or relayed that information.
So, Bobby.
Thank you.
Bobby, not trying to hold you anything because I know with the Carroll Vista it's ever changing, but I mean, you know, if you, as you stand here at this moment, I mean, how far do you think we're going to make it down this list?
Well, you know, I don't know if you can remember or not, but when we presented the paving contract to council, when I put together the paving specs on this contract, the specifications are robust, I think is the name I used, because they're substantial, and we think, we pretty much know that we can carve back on some of that to stretch it further.
Okay.
If you give me a little bit of time, I can narrow that down.
Okay, I was just curious because I mean, it sounds great, 1, 2, 3, 4, 16, but if we're only going to make it a 5, then it's kind of like, okay, you know.
Well, I think we'll make it a little further than that.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, any other questions?
Well, if I can add something to it, Councilman, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to change it and email it to him. Yeah, you know, anyway. But anyway, y'all, it's taken a while, and you know, when the contract was awarded, you know, I sat down with the RSNL, and they had a bunch of paving to do in Haralson County. And they said, look, please, if you can just bear with us, you know, we've got some state highway stuff to do over there, and we'll work our way right back through Villa Rica. Well, I talked to the superintendent just before this meeting, and he said this week, next week, and probably the following week, they're going to be in here. So.
Well, we've had lots of dry weather for them. So if it keeps up, they won't have any rain delays.
Well, you know,
hopefully we'll get the rain at night.
I told him, I said we had 5 weeks with no rain at all. And he said, yeah, and we were paving probably 15, 16 hours a day.
In Haralson, yeah. Okay.
I just wanted a clarification
McCoy.
on Shoreline. It's I know because you were saying about Edge Road and Daniel Road, and Old Stone Road, you were only going certain parts. There's 2,000 feet. Shoreline's the
All of it.
whole
Yes.
thing because it's not as long as those two, or does it need it that bad, or both?
Shoreline.
You said they haven't been done since they were put
yeah.
in.
Yeah, we looked at Shoreline like it is the main skeleton.
Yeah.
Into Mirror Lake. It's the most traveled roadway in there. And we really thought it needed to be on the list. And it's got speed humps on it.
Yeah, I was going to ask about those too.
Our plan is to try to put those back.
Okay, they're going to go back okay, that was going to be my next thing. Was this going to take the speed humps, or were they going to go back like they're supposed
If
to?
they didn't, I can tell you what would happen on that road.
Yeah, it would.
No, the plan has always been to put those back.
Okay. And then my, I don't know why I'm doing this today. I had another question about I noticed that you put the side streets in Mirror Lake, the neighborhood streets are down at the bottom, because at first I was wondering, I'm like, well, why are they doing Shoreline and then they're moving? Because you were saying you were trying not to move because it touches Bridgewater, but I see that you put all the side streets.
Well.
So, which means we're never going to get to them, right?
Well, I don't want to say that, but you know, if the city of Villa Rica had $50 million, we could pave all of our streets. We have, you know, Mirror Lake, the fact that it hadn't been touched since inception, it's held up really well, believe it or not. But we wanted to include Shoreline because it's the main.
It is the main artery, and I mean, this is a totally different subject, but if people wouldn't use it as a cut-through road, it may not be in the shape it is now, but it is what it is at this point. So, but yeah, I was wondering about the speed humps, and I was wondering about the side streets. And so this is just my suggestion that I'm just going to put out there is that I agree we need all these paved. We need every street in Villa Rica paved would be great. But, you know, it's kind of like managing expectations. Like when we get down to the bottom, the hope gets less and less and less. I just wanted to point that out.
But you know, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. It wouldn't matter what list you put together. There's always going to be that.
Yeah, I agreed. But I was just making that comment. Thank you, Bobby.
Let me add something to that, too. If you notice, on all these streets, it says mill and inlay. So if you're not familiar with that process, in the past, Bobby alluded to the fact that there were 9 lifts of asphalt in Coach's neighborhood. And so in the past, the easy fix was just come and put 2 more inches of asphalt on top of what was already there, which created situations in that neighborhood over there. In Carroll Vista, the road is actually about that much higher than the bottom of the curb. So that's what happens. You continue to put asphalt on top of asphalt on top of asphalt. So the mill and pave it process is better because you take it down instead of just building on top of it. So that is a little bit more expensive. Quite frankly, it does slow the process down a little bit, but long term, that is the best solution. Being in the asphalt industry in the past.
That's right. A little bit of background in there. Anyone opposed to making this C-15?
It's just
Oh,
discussion.
I'm sorry. Yes. We don't have to approve. No, go ahead. You're doing it.
Madam Mayor, I've got a couple more things I want to touch on while I'm here, if I can.
Absolutely.
The update on a couple things. On Clearview Street, school zone signs have been delivered and locates have been called in now. And when you put up a sign now using the DOT spec, you drive an anchor in the ground, 3 feet. Well, in order to do that, you have to call a utility locate in because you can drive an anchor through a gas line or whatever. So that's in the process right now of getting those installed. Cleghorn Street, the 4-way stop and stop aheads are installed except for the stop ahead on Darden, which is the really short
street.
But it will be in, and they've got 1 stop bar installed, and we've got contractors that are working on getting the others done. So that'll be complete.
Stop bars at all?
All 4.
All 4. Okay.
And to your question, Commerce and Highway 78. I am waiting on a sketch on that right in, right out configuration, so we can do our process with GDOT and see how many hoops we're going to have to jump through. So we're working on that. And we're scratching our heads still on the Walmart thing.
Hope we can do something there.
That's it.
Thank you. All righty. Utilities, Mr. Bain.
All right, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
This first item I'll touch on this afternoon, and then if we'd like to go over it again this evening as discussed earlier, we can do that. But this first item is for the redirect of Shoreline Lift Station from the north plant over to Cleghorn Pump Station and eventually the west plant. We started designing a renovation to this lift station a couple years ago. And through design and ongoing projects, we realized we would need to make some other changes to the design. So we continued to work on this for some time, but we realized a couple of things. One item was the project cost that's approved is $2.3 million for the current design, and realistically, it's a couple years out. Well, through further investigations, we had concern about both of those, both the cost and the time frame to get this complete. So we moved more to a design build model, if you will. And we asked for a contractor, Tim Grizzly and Associates, to look at it and give us his thoughts on a design build project. And actually what we got back is a project that is much lower than what our current design was at $1,006,800. And we feel like we can get this done in a much more timely manner and redirect this flow over to the west plant, which is beneficial for us for a few reasons as it relates both to the west plant and the north plant. So, after review, I know Mr. Reese and myself and Mr. Elliott and Mr. Grizzard met on this, and we discussed this at length as far as short and long-term projects. And at the end of the day, we feel like this is a great alternative to our original plan, as it's well under budget, and it achieves our goal of getting this flow diverted to the west plant sooner rather than later. We expect this to reduce the flow at the north plant, the capacity from current about 87% capacity down to about 65 to 67% capacity. So that buys us some substantial capacity at the north plant, which will match up with what our current ongoing projects and future projects are in that area of town. So it's staff's recommendation that we move forward with an agreement with Tim Grizzard and Associates for the redirect of the shoreline lift station at a cost of $1,006,800. Yes.
What percentage of what goes into the north plant right now will this relieve?
Pretty close to 20%.
Okay.
So, and it only impacts the west plant to the tune of about 4.5% to 5% because the west plant is so much larger. So we can effectively take 20% off the north plant and only increase the west plant by about 5%.
Okay.
So this has been a big priority of mine, and I've spoke to each of you, I think, individually about this. So one of the things that was most scary when I came in is when John and I talked initially, and he said, we're at 85% capacity right now on our north plant. So typically around 90% EPD gets involved, and they say no more, nobody signs leases at that point. So that's scary. So since that time, since 6 weeks ago, that number has now climbed from 85% to 87%. So using that model within a year, we'll be past that 90% number. So it was very, there was no way that we were going to be able to wait 2 years as a city and not be at 100% capacity at that north plant. At that point, that becomes a very serious issue for many reasons, and I'm not the expert, there's the expert, but one of the reasons that I didn't even recognize was that not only is that taxing your system when you go from 85% to 95%, but it also decreases the effectiveness of treating that sewer water that goes back into the system, because there's more volume than the system's able to treat. Is that correct?
Yes, what it does is it would, reducing the capacity would effectively mitigate any treatment questions relative to spikes in the system. So if we're riding along at 85% capacity, we have enough bandwidth to adjust for anything else coming in, either spikes in concentration of certain constituents or just spikes in flow, or a combination of both, which can happen over time. So reducing that, keeping that bandwidth of 85% gives us that flexibility in treatment. If we're sitting on 90 to 95%, we really don't have that bandwidth to make adjustments as necessary because we're so limited to handle any spikes in constituent or flow.
Kind of to follow up, are there any plans to move any on that side of Villa Rica, move those to the west plant? Are there any more lift stations close to shoreline and that go into the north plant that there are plans to move them?
Yes, great question. There actually is. We have a design in place right now that we're working on to redirect flow from what we call Ashley Place lift station over to the west plant, which will take an additional 20% off of demand on the north plant. which allows us the capacity we need to move forward.
So with that being said, how long, what we're approving or what we're putting on consent right now, how long will it take for that to be diverted to the West plant?
We think we can do, I hate to speak for the contractor, but we think we can do this in less than a year, certainly. Is that safe to say?
I think we'll be done by the end of the year. And it's a 17-week lead time on the pumps, but we'd have the piping done. We can have it all done.
Yeah. And yes, and I happen to think internally in conversations with our wastewater operations manager, Eric, and myself, we can manage the pump concerns relative to lead time on the pumps. We think we have a way to manage that, to maintain that
Okay,
flow.
so we're looking at 3 years for the Ashley Place to be moved?
I would say less than 3, but probably every bit of 2 years.
Okay.
2 to 3 years would be a good estimate.
Okay.
So
I'm just concerned with the rate that, like, what'd you say, Jeff? We went from 85 to 87 very quickly. I'm just concerned with the way we're rising that that pretty soon we're going to hit 90, even with the 20% from shoreline moved.
So, in regards to that, I looked at all of our plans that we have in place, development projects, if you will, and how much of that would impact the North Plant and when that would be complete and impact the North Plant. And then we essentially set a schedule in place as to when we need to redirect Shoreline Lift Station, which is what we're here for today, and then when do we pull the trigger on redirecting Ashley Place so we can get that flow over to the West Plant prior to any of those other developments that are slated to come in. So we took a look at the plans, and that's how we're going to build when we're going to make that change.
So we have
stay
a
ahead of
plan.
it.
We have a plan in place.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Yes.
That's all I need to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So let me say this too. Now it is. How about that?
That's better.
I think Kevin turns my mic off when I'm not looking. So, again, when I saw that we were at 85% capacity, I've never been in a municipality where that was the case, so it was kind of scary. So, Tim Grizzard is by all accounts one of the most knowledgeable design build professionals in the business.
Define
He's also the
design
former city
build.
manager of Carrollton. So, and I know what he did personally for Carrollton. So, and this is not a commercial for Tim Grizzard, but it scared me equally to death when I saw the price of this, because it's very unusual for me to come to any elected body and say, we have one bid, especially with this type of money. But two things made that happen. First of all, the urgency. This is absolutely an urgency type situation. Second thing is it's a design build, which basically means you can't spec out, it's not like buying a car or, buying a scoreboard, because you're basically engineering it as you go. So Tim has that breakdown in your packet here, and you can see what he's designed. And I feel very confident that we'll do it for that amount or perhaps less than that. Even if it were that amount, it would be half what the original cost was. So I just wanted to make that statement that this is not something that's usual, that I would anticipate that the city would ever try to do, except for the fact that it is an urgency, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the people that I trust to make those decisions.
Absolutely, but would you step up to the mic? That way the people watching on video can hear you.
I've been on Jeff's side of the fence for a lot
This
of
is
years.
Mr. Grizzard.
Yeah,
So
thank
we
you.
know.
You also bid out Weatherstone and Cleghorn, and we were about 25% under the next low bidder. We won that bid, and you awarded it to us. The prices I gave you are based on those unit rates. So if that helps you defend this decision, it's not like I pull these numbers out of the air. It's the numbers I gave you on a previous bid, and that was a competitive bid. So if that makes you more comfortable with it, I just want you to know that's where those numbers came from.
Thank
So,
you.
all right, thank you.
Any other questions? I wasn't in the same meeting with all of y'all, but I did express some concern about making this particular item a consent item, because normally those will be things that maybe aren't a lot of money or non-controversial. This isn't controversial, but when we're talking $1 million and things like that, we just feel like that needs to be in the main meeting where more people are attentive and hear a little bit of the argument of why we're doing it why it's an emergency and why we feel the need to proceed the way we are on this. So if there's no more questions, I'll just move past this one since are y'all okay with that? Okay, so we'll come back to that this evening. We won't have to ask some of the questions, but we still want to hear the explanation, for the people that are in attendance and watching on video.
Mayor.
All right. Yes.
I just want to say I'm sorry for being on my phone there a moment ago. I was checking in on Councilwoman Marchman. She's okay. She's got some kind of non-emergent situation going on that she's having to work through, but she'll be here this evening.
All right, thank you. Item number 2, Cowan's Lake pump replacement.
Okay. This project is to replace one of the 2 pumps at our raw water pump station located near Cowan's Lake that transfers water from one of our reservoirs to another reservoir. You may recall in the last couple of years we did a project to renovate that pump station. That project included the replacement of one of those pumps. We opted to replace just one pump at the time because the other pump we felt like we had a couple years of life from it yet and we didn't want to give up on that second pump just yet. So to hang on to that second pump and use it as much as we could. But we are now at the time where we want to replace that second pump. That second pump will allow us to pump up to 500,000 gallons a day from one reservoir to another. With one pump, we're hitting about 350. So this allows us to increase the flow from one reservoir to the second reservoir where our water operations staff can transfer into the water plant and treat. So you may recall we had a pretty dry event this spring where the lake levels dropped fairly significantly. A second pump allows us to transfer water from one reservoir to the other to help us mitigate the amount of water we can produce, or I should say the amount of water we have to reduce production by due to lake levels. So we believe this will help us in terms of operations pretty significantly at the water plant. Our 2 submersible pump vendors are Sulzer and Flight. As we can see, the Flight quote is nearly double the quote of Sulzer. Flight is standard, I should say, in submersible pumps. It's really it's been a top of the line pump for many years. Many municipalities spec only Flight pumps, but we've had really good success with Sulzer pumps of late. And the other pump that's currently in the same wet well is a Sulzer pump, and we've had great success with it. So we feel like this second Sulzer pump will give us the same. Also took a quick look at life cycle costs on it, and I couldn't justify paying the quote that Flight quoted us based on life cycle. We believe that Sulzer pump will get us nearly the same life for much less cost. We have implemented Sulzer pumps in several of our wastewater lift stations as well. Several times Mr. Eric Brose has been up here requesting pumps. You may see a theme where we're talking about Sulzer pumps, but those are the 2 quotes because those are the 2 submersible pumps that we approved in our standards.
Any questions from council? Right, because the only one I'd heard in the past is it consistent? Because I was thinking almost everything we had was Flight, but I didn't realize we had the others as well.
Yeah, we had a host of other brands in our lift stations, so we've tried to standardize that as best we can, but we don't want to standardize it to just one because then there's some pricing issues and doesn't give us the flexibility either.
Yeah.
And sometimes one will give us great service, preferred service over another. But we are standardizing most of our pump stations, if not all, to either Flight or Sulzer.
Okay, thank you. Big difference in price. Anyone opposed to making this consent number 15? 15, because the shoreline we're bringing back tonight. Yeah, that's what I was doing before I realized it was discussion only. We don't have to listen to the whole list of roads again. All right, Finance, Ms. Howman.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Okay, the budget amendments are what I'm bringing before you right now. All of these are either on this, we've already discussed them in this current agenda, or I think one of them was approved in last agenda. Last month. The first one is the police pursuit vehicle, the one that we are using unused funds from the police department for $79,138. We're just transferring that out of the police department's budget and putting it in the capital fund. The next item is the police firearm disposition and purchase. That was something that y'all approved them doing last month in July. So this is just the budget amendment that goes along with that. And that is state drug funds is the funding source for that one. The police CID vehicle, as Blake had mentioned earlier, was funded by the 2016 Douglas Splost. This is to purchase and upfit one SID vehicle for from the 2016 Splost at $30,875. And last but not least, the advance purchase out of the using the 2025 budget, purchased 5 Ford Explorers and upfitting for the police department for $387,735.
Any questions? Anyone opposed to making this consent number 16? Item 2, FY24 audit and single audit services with Malden and Jenkins LLC.
Yes, this is just to request for y'all to approve the proposal for Malden and Jenkins to provide our audit and single audit services for fiscal year 2024. As we're ending the year, which ends September 30th, we will start the audit process. And the auditors usually start coming in December or January to do a complete external audit on our financial statements. The single audit services, that is $4,500 per major program if needed. That just depends on how many federal grants we receive. We've had them in the past due to the ARPA money. But it just depends on how many of those grants we have and at what amount they are.
I think I also noticed, I know I read it earlier, that we would, rebid this next year? I remember being in the finance class at GMA and them, there's something to be said for a company that's familiar with you, but that you need to bid it out every now and then.
Absolutely.
And they would say, get fresh eyes on it, somebody else looking at our, so that'll be next year? Okay.
And what's good too, even if it's, I'm sure Malden and Jenkins will probably put in a bid for next year, but even since I've been here, they've had different audit managers over. So we've had Sarah's eyes on it internally, then my eyes on it internally, but you've also had the partners change, and they do that on purpose as well, so that they can have a fresh set of eyes on it.
Okay. Questions?
I was really just going to make a comment that, I think that is the standard. The standard used to be like every 3 years you needed to either bid it out to another agency or firm or have your partners change. So the people don't, it's nice for them to be comfortable, but you don't want them getting too comfortable.
Exactly. Yeah, I think GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, recommends that you have your external auditors for a minimum of 5 years, because it takes a good year or two, one, for them to structure the audit, and then also for them to start looking at other things or maybe go into a little bit more detail. So minimum is 5 years. I think this will be year 7 for us. So that's why we said we'll just go ahead and go out for rebid next year.
Any other questions? Anyone opposed to making this consent item 17? Right. Thank you, Ms. Hallman. City Manager. Deputy City Manager. There we go. Ms. DeSanto.
Good afternoon. I have the honor of presenting the last 2 items before you this afternoon. So the first item is a renewal agreement. This is with Placer AI, which is a marketing and development tool. Essentially, right now, we've got Colin, Melissa, as well as Karina, and I believe Dr. Lynn at the library as well, using this tool. And basically what it does is they have agreements, separate agreements with different smart applications. And in those smartphone applications, it will ask users to allow location permissions. What Placer AI does with that information is then makes it available to us to know who is touring our city for different events. So essentially, if we want to know where our event residents and citizens and tourists are coming from, say for the July 3rd event, we can use this tool and it'll let us know how far they traveled from and where they traveled from. We're also using this in our events for marketing. It helps to know when we have a concert series where a lot of the people are coming from. Colin's using this information, and she's actually meeting with her bureau on Thursday and truly trying to target in different areas. A lot of the data she has right now is coming out of Alabama. So it's great to market our events locally, but from a tourism aspect, it's really helping her narrow her focus down in other areas as well. So we had the original agreement for $12,000 last year. This is a renewal agreement for $12,600.
Okay, so whenever they ask me, I always tell them no. But I know there must be ones that I don't say no on the app, because you start getting advertisements for where you are or where you just were, and you're like, they're following you. But it doesn't use their name. You know, it's not that. It's data on people without giving you personal
That's correct.
information on them.
The city has no individual information whatsoever. It's aggregate data.
Questions from council?
Yeah, I was just curious if we're actually using this, because I feel like, I guess you said it was a year, but I feel like this is a couple of years we've done this, but maybe it's only a year, so.
Yes, we started it last year. I think we were investigating the year prior to that,
okay.
different. So it probably feels like maybe this is the second or third time you've heard about it. I will say in some of the transition, there's a lot more learning that's going on. Colin has gotten a lot more well-versed in it. I know Dr. Lynn is really starting to use it for some of her activities as well, and kind of understanding how they can work together. Karina is using it as well. So I'd like to see us utilize it even more, kind of get the communications committee involved with it. So we are a little new to everything that it can do, but we are using the data.
Okay.
If I could add to that, so coming up in the Cobb County environment, this was just something we did standard. The Cobb County Chamber of Commerce actually came to our tournaments at Al Bishop Softball Complex, Lost Mountain Softball Complex, and they could actually tell us where the people that came to those tournaments spent their time, where they spent their money, where they stayed overnight for, if it was a 2-day tournament, 3-day tournament. So, Councilman, to your point, I think this is a good starting point when we start doing tournaments at the VPlex. We'll know what the impact, not only to the recreation department directly, but how many of those teams stay at local motels, how many of those teams eat at Arby's or wherever. So that's really good information, because eventually what it created in Cobb County was an environment where when we had a tournament at Al Bishop Softball Complex, the Cobb County Chamber of Commerce was a part of that. They sat at that table and they said, we can get a world, women's softball tournament. And they said, that's fantastic. How much is it going to cost? And let's just say it was $10,000. They would front that because they could see the impact that it had on the business community. So I think that's a good tool that we didn't have, quite frankly. We had people that had to count that and do surveys and give away freebies at local restaurants and 10% off at motels so that we could gather that information. So this is 21st century.
Sure is. Different from when we would do bicycle events, bicycles. And thank you for interjecting that, because one of my questions usually is return on investment. So there you can actually monitor the return you're getting. Any other questions? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 18? This has been a doggone long work session. These, I don't know, these are like the agendas we're used to having. We got a little break there for a few months. I'm like, no, we're back to our old ways now. But we had a lot to cover. Item number 2, acceptance of Safe Streets and Road for All grant award. Yeah, we want to accept this grant. Tell us about it.
Thank you for that. I actually was approached 2 weeks ago from a company who'd been in contact with previous administration about the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant award. So we were awarded in January of this year, but we do not have a grant agreement at this time. And so essentially, the Foresight Group, the gentleman, Eric Stevens and Representative Doug Stoner reached out to me and have asked to assist us in working through that process with the Federal Highway Administration to get a grant agreement. It is rare that a municipality our size gets money directly awarded from the federal government when it's not an entitlement program. So this is a little bit of uncharted water, not going through the state first or any other entity first. So they want to assist us with that. This grant does come with a 20% commitment. But essentially, this grant is funded through the bipartisan infrastructure law. It established this grant, this discretionary program. This program funds regional, local initiatives through grants to prevent roadway deaths and serious injuries. We were awarded $400,000 in the FY23 December, which was round 2 planning and demonstration grant award. Once this agreement is executed and the Villa Rica Transportation Safety Action Plan is complete, which is essentially what this award would build for us, the city can then use this project list to apply for additional federal funding, also through the Safe Streets and Roads for All implementation grant program. And those awards can range anywhere from $1 to $2 million.
Okay, so when you're talking that this is used for building. Planning, tell us, just give us an example.
Absolutely. So they worked with Effingham County. This particular group, with their grant agreement, worked with Effingham County through roadways connecting ports to local cities within Effingham County for streetlights. So this is a very broad grant. This can be sight distance related. It can be streetlights. It can be pedestrian crosswalks. Solar panel light safety crossings. It is a very broad grant, so it would be really great to have somebody like the Foresight Group help us navigate these waters to build a grant agreement where we have options.
And because we complete this, it then makes us eligible for other federal funds toward actually implementing, carrying that out.
Correct.
I think we have just a few ideas of where some of those things could go. So the street lighting, the flashing crossing signs, pedestrian-friendly sidewalks, bike lanes, whatever it might be. Okay. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I mean, Councilman McCoy. I know. I was just doing that because I know you say it's hard to get it out sometime, even for me.
Okay, so I was a little confused. I promise I'll be as quickly as I can because we've been here a while. I'm reading the award letter and it says $9,400. What? That's the 20% match.
No, that is just the agreement for the Foresight Group to construct the actual grant agreement with the Federal Highway Safety Authority.
So are we hiring them to write a grant? Is
No,
that
but-
it, or because where I'm confused is where has it already been awarded? So if it's already been awarded, why are we paying someone to manage it? I just am curious where the money's going.
So essentially, the 9,400 would be for them to write the grant agreement. So the award's been made based on application, but the application's very broad. This would get us into a spectrum of this is how we want to spend the money. We're gonna write an RFP based on these parameters and get the Federal Highway Safety to sign off on that with us. So they've awarded, but we still have to have the actual project agreement. So the 9,400 gets us the actual grant agreement and the skeleton bones to work out the RFP, and that's where the $400,000 comes into play for the transportation study.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, we have been awarded by the federal, we've been awarded, but they didn't give us any clarification. So therefore, we are hiring the whatever group, I'm sorry, I keep saying whatever, to pay $9,400 to write an agreement. Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay.
And just to add to that, this is their area of expertise. Eric Stevens had, I think, 15 years with the Federal Highway Safety. So, and they've executed in other communities in Georgia this exact grant.
Okay.
Any other questions? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 19? All right. That should make it a little easier on this evening on everyone with a number of consent items. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to move into the public comment
Or
portion
you
of
gonna
the
do a
meeting.
consent
Oh, I'm
item
sorry,
review?
wait a second. Hang on, I've got to go. Yes, thank you, Councilman Carter. We'll go through the agenda. If you see or hear one that's not correct, or I missed anything, let me know. All right, consent item number 1, that's the amendment to the ordinance of section 2.30 for the board's authorities. C2 is the appointment to the Villa Rica Development Authority. C3 is the amendment to the WIC lease. C4 is intergovernmental agreement for the tax collection with Carroll County. C5 is Villa Rica Civic Center, the scoreboards. C6 is the temporary signage for the rodeo. C7 is the insurance renewal, medical insurance employees. C8 is the insurance premium rates for the insurance. Yes.
I have the appointment in Maryland Glass at 7. Okay.
Okay.
My bad, sorry.
All right. Insurance rates were C8. C9 is the library board appointment. C10 is the Three Rivers Commission. C11 is the police patrol vehicles. C12, also police patrol vehicle. C13, the criminal investigation department vehicle. And then C14 is selling the surplus items on Gov Deals. C15 is Lake Cowan's pump replacement. C16, the budget amendments. C17 for the audit services. C18 is the renewal agreement with Placer Labs. And C19 is the acceptance of the Safe Streets and Road for All grant award. There's one, okay. Okay, so we're going to move into the public comment portion of the meeting. I have the sign-up sheets here. I'll call on those first. If anyone after that wants to speak, you'll have an opportunity at that time. As you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. Each individual will be given 3 minutes to speak. Those addressing the mayor and council may feel free to speak openly on the matter you wish to bring to our attention, but we do ask that you do so in a respectful manner, refraining from any uncivil discourse. As an elected body, we do not typically engage at that time with questions and answers. This is your time for you to express your concern or opinion. However, if your question or concern necessitates a response from the staff level, I'll be happy to have either the city manager or we'll direct you to a staff member in regard to that concern so you can get an answer in a reasonable time. As your elected officials, we value the opportunity to hear from citizens and those who have a vested interest in our city. First name, Pam White. Oh, this evening? Okay. Greg Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Greg Roberts, 2142 Burkdale Street, Villa Rica, Georgia. And to concur with this lady, the way you want people to sign up, you sign up whether you had anything to come in about or not. But after you sit here for 3 hours, you probably got a list of things.
That might
so
be true.
the 3 minutes ought to be sort of match the length of the meeting because my list is about as long as your agenda.
How long do you want to stay?
No, I'm just kidding. I do have a couple of comments. One thing I noticed early, and it happened early on, there were a couple of people that came to the podium. I couldn't tell you who they are. I don't know if they work for the city. I don't know what they do. But I feel like, and I have no issue giving my name and my address. I don't think this lady or anybody else would. But we kind of want to know who came up and said something. We'll make no big deal about it, but I noticed that really early on. One was with the city attorney. I don't know who that lady was. I don't know what she did. I'm not asking you to tell me now. I'm just saying if they're going to make some recommendation or some comment about something you're going to decide on, I'd kind of like to know who they are, right? And then on that note, I did see Tim Grizzard here. I know him for 35 years probably, and I trust Tim. I don't know how long he's been involved with the city of Villa Rica, but you probably hadn't had him involved long enough. So he probably can help with a lot of things. So I don't know enough about what was discussed there, but I trust Tim Grizzard. He's been a great local government guy for a number of years. So I've mentioned that about speakers and who they are. I'm not sure how much longer the one meeting a month is going to last for you guys, because now somehow or another I missed those short meetings that you referred to. Every meeting I come to, it's a 3-hour, it's a 1:30 to 4:30 thing, and then the 6 o'clock lasts till 8:30. Whew. So I'm not saying any of you want to have an extra meeting. I know staff doesn't. They probably want you to have an all-day meeting once a month. It's a little bit of a joke, because I know some of your staff, and they're great people. But I am saying, as a citizen who works every day, more hours than I should be working, I can't take the day off. I worked from home this morning so I could be here for the 1:30. Don't know if I can make the 6:30, the 6 o'clock, because the wife hadn't given me permission. But anyway, it's hard for citizens to stay in tune. And you've talked about a lot of things, and you guys had a lot of questions about what you had today. And a citizen is as confused as a termite and a yo-yo. Now, you're going to have to work that out in your mind if that don't make sense. But citizens are confused by this meeting. I can tell you they are. And that's just the ones that had time to listen in so they need a little help. They got to have a little less conversation and a little more meat of what and I've only got 2 seconds and I hadn't touched anything. If you just give me a few more seconds. So I came in, and I am favorable to the Scott Evans thing. I think it's a great development he's wanting to do. But then the questions by council, you raised great questions. I hadn't really given much consideration to some of the things you talked about. I didn't realize how it was going to impact the citizens behind, and with all those parking lot lights, I don't know how you deal with that. I think it is a great concept for him to come out here and probably cherry pick that piece of property, and that's to his credit. The rest of us should look at that way, but he's probably getting it for a lot less money than he would get it for in 8 or 10 years. But you do need some information from the Georgia Department of Transportation for your area, and that type of thing. And then the road areas. I went and looked at a lot of the roads from when this was discussed back in May. You didn't meet in June. But a lot of the road stuff, and Mr. Elliott is spot on with a lot of that. Some of those roads that were probably built many years ago out off of 78 on the west side of town, they don't have any road base. I went and looked at them in May. I could see then they didn't have any road base on them. They had too much flexibility on them. That's a hard road to fix because the road base was not put there. You benefit from Mirror Lake because the developers that built that had built a lot of developments, and they had pretty good integrity on building roads. So I don't know what you guys need to look at as far as your current process on your inspections. You can't just rely on engineering reports.
Do me a favor.
Yep.
Because I know I'm given a lot more grace than I usually
I understand.
give, except for we had one meeting that we broke all the rules and allowed.
I understand, but
Do you want to talk to somebody on staff to relay?
well, and I'll send you and the city manager an email. I did send one, but there are just a few issues like that I feel like can be dealt with. But what this council doesn't want to do, you don't want to repeat issues that councils 20, 30 years ago caused. Because if a road is installed without the road base, without adequate subgrade and base grade, you're going to repeat the same issues that he's dealing with over off of Villa something, whatever that was called. But those roads didn't have any road base.
Thank you. And I think I've learned this even from the comments here as I'm dealing with citizens. Oh, I'm sorry, on a regular basis, is we have a lot of expertise out with our citizens. A lot. We have engineers, we have people that work for other cities, counties, and we will get some really good advice at times from citizens who have not only watched over the years, but actually have expertise in HR, and will bring up some really good questions or ideas of things we need to consider. Absolutely, we've got to be careful of trying not to repeat the problems of the past. Alita Farmer? This evening? Okay. And, alrighty, Anything else? Any other questions? We've been here a long time. Tonight should be more manageable. We've got a lot of consent items, so hopefully, other than asking a few questions of the applicant, we should move right along, I hope. And that's our goal. All righty.